The text on my phone screen burned into my retinas as I read it for the 20th time. 3 little words that destroyed everything. Miss you, baby. I'm Leah, and 5 minutes ago I thought I had a perfect marriage. The message wasn't meant for me. Ryan had left his phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while he showered upstairs. I wasn't snooping. I just wanted to check the time when the notification popped up. From Mark, with a heart emoji. My fingers trembled as I set the phone down exactly where I'd found it. The shower was still running upstairs, the steady rhythm matching my racing pulse. I moved to the living room couch, perching on the edge like a stranger in my own home. Hey, honey, have you seen my blue tie? Ryan called from upstairs. His voice sounded normal, casual, like he hadn't just shattered our world with 3 words and an emoji. Check the laundry room. I managed to reply, proud that my voice didn't shake. The shower stopped. Footsteps crossed the ceiling above me. I could picture him getting ready for work, going through his normal routine while I sat here trying to breathe around the knife in my chest. Found it. He appeared at the bottom of the stairs, adjusting his collar. You're a lifesaver. I looked at my husband of 8 years. Really looked at him. His damp hair was perfectly styled, his suit crisp and expensive. When had he started dressing so carefully for work? Everything okay? He asked, frowning slightly. You look pale. Who's Mark? The words escaped before I could stop them. Ryan's face didn't change, but his hands stilled on his tie. Mark? Oh, new guy at work. Why? He misses you. I met his eyes steadily, with a heart emoji. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Ryan's expression cycled through surprise, fear, and finally settled on careful blankness. You went through my phone? His voice held an edge of accusation. You left it unlocked. The message just popped up. I stood slowly. Don't try to make this about me checking your phone. Tell me what's going on. Nothing's going on. Mark's just overly friendly. You know how some guys are. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. Baby, you're making something out of nothing. I jerked away from his touch. Don't you dare try to gaslight me about this. Leah, come on, you're being ridiculous. He glanced at his watch. I have a meeting in 30 minutes. Can we discuss your paranoia later? My paranoia? I laughed, the sound sharp and foreign in my throat. Okay, call Mark right now. Put him on speaker. Let's clear this up. Ryan's jaw tightened. I don't have time for this. We'll talk tonight. He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. I followed him. How long? I demanded. How long have you been lying to me? He paused with his hand on the doorknob. For a moment, I thought he might actually answer. Instead, he opened the door and stepped outside. I love you, he said quietly. We'll figure this out later. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I stood there, staring at the polished wood, listening to his car start up and pull away. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably his mother, Diane, calling for our daily chat about her upcoming birthday celebration. I ignored it. Instead, I walked to my laptop and opened a new browser window. Time to find out exactly what kind of lawyer specializes in divorce cases where the husband is sleeping with his male colleague. The house felt different now. Colder, emptier. Like the warmth of our marriage had been nothing but an illusion all along. I touched my wedding ring, twisting it around my finger. Game on, Ryan. I whispered to the empty room. Game on. The dinner table had never felt so wide. Ryan sat across from me, methodically cutting his steak into perfect squares, as if nothing had changed. 3 days since the text message, and we'd perfected the art of artificial normalcy. The salmon is excellent, he said, not looking up from his plate. I pushed my food around. Diane called again today. She's insisting on hosting that dinner party tomorrow night. His fork paused halfway to his mouth. We should go. You know how she gets. Of course. Heaven forbid we disappoint your mother. The bitterness in my voice made him finally meet my eyes. Don't start, he warned quietly. Not everything has to be a battle. The doorbell rang, saving us from another carefully controlled argument. Ryan's shoulders tensed as I stood to answer it. Emma stood on our porch, holding a bottle of wine and wearing her trademark concerned expression. Surprise! I was in the neighborhood and thought, Emma. Ryan's voice carried from behind me, too bright, too friendly. What a lovely surprise. We were just finishing dinner. I caught the slight emphasis on finishing, but Emma breezed past it, already inside. Perfect timing then. I brought that Merlot you love, Leah. 20 minutes later, we sat in the living room, Ryan maintaining his perfect husband performance while Emma watched him like a hawk. She'd been my best friend since college. She knew something was wrong the moment I'd called her yesterday, voice shaking. How's work, Ryan? Emma asked innocently. Any interesting new projects? New team members? I nearly choked on my wine. Ryan's smile didn't waver. Same as always, though we did hire a few new people recently. He checked his phone. Speaking of work, I should review some files before tomorrow. The moment he disappeared upstairs, Emma turned to me. He's getting sloppy. Did you see how he couldn't even say Mark's name? Keep your voice down, I whispered, though I knew Ryan would have his shower running by now. His nightly routine as predictable as sunrise. I haven't confronted him about Mark yet. Not really. Why not? You have the proof. Because of Diane. I drained my glass. She's throwing this huge dinner party tomorrow night. All Ryan's colleagues will be there, including Mark. I need to see them together. I need to know if I'm crazy. Emma's eyes widened. Diane invited Mark? Does she know? I doubt it. She's too obsessed with appearances to knowingly invite her sons. I couldn't finish the sentence. What's your plan? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Diane's name flashed on the screen. Darling. Her voice dripped honey when I answered. I just wanted to confirm you're bringing that lovely butternut squash soup tomorrow night. You know it's Ryan's favorite. I caught Emma's eye and put the phone on speaker. Actually, I thought I'd try something new, I said. Maybe a spicier recipe. Oh. A delicate pause. Well, you know how particular Ryan is about change. Better stick with what works, don't you think? We wouldn't want to upset him. Emma made a gagging gesture. You're right, Diane. Heaven forbid anyone upset Ryan. I kept my voice sweet. I'll bring the usual. After hanging up, Emma grabbed my hands. That woman is toxic. I need to play along. I interrupted. For now, tomorrow night I'm going to watch Ryan and Mark together. If I see what I think I'll see. I took a deep breath. Then I'll know exactly what to do next. And what's that? The shower upstairs shut off. I lowered my voice. Ryan and his mother think they're so clever, so in control. But they've never seen me angry. Really angry. Emma studied my face. You're planning something. Let's just say tomorrow night's dinner party might serve up more than butternut squash soup. I managed a small smile. And Diane's precious social circle might get a taste of something they weren't expecting. Leah. Emma hesitated. Just be careful. Revenge can backfire. Upstairs, I heard Ryan's footsteps moving toward his home office, where he'd spend the next 2 hours working while actually texting Mark. The pattern was so obvious now. I'm done being careful, I said quietly. I'm done being the perfect wife who never rocks the boat. Tomorrow night, I start rocking it until it capsizes. Emma squeezed my hand, but her expression was worried. She didn't understand. Not yet. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about taking back control of my life, one carefully planned dinner party at a time. And tomorrow night would just be the appetizer. The private investigator's office smelled like stale coffee and secrets. Photos spread across his desk like fallen leaves. Ryan and Mark entering a hotel, sharing intimate moments in a restaurant corner, exchanging what looked like keys in a parking garage. There's more, Detective Torres said, sliding another envelope across his desk. Financial records. My hands trembled as I opened it. Bank statements, credit card bills, a lease agreement. He's paying for an apartment? Under a shell company. Very clever, but not clever enough. Torres leaned back. Your husband's been maintaining this arrangement for almost a year. A year. While I'd been planning dinner parties and playing the perfect wife, Ryan had been building a separate life. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My phone buzzed. Diane's third call today. I silenced it without looking. The dinner party last night, I said, my voice hollow. They barely spoke to each other, but their body language practiced deception. Torres nodded. They've gotten good at hiding in plain sight. A text from Emma lit up my phone. Did you see Diane's social media post? Call me. There's something else, Torres said, hesitating. The apartment lease? Your mother-in-law's signature is on it as guarantor. The room tilted slightly. Diane knows? More than knows. She's actively helping them maintain the deception. I stood abruptly, gathering the photos with shaking hands. The pieces clicked together. Diane's increased involvement in our lives, her constant surveillance disguised as maternal concern, her insistence that Ryan focus on his career instead of starting a family. The retainer we discussed, Torres began. I'll wire it today. I paused at the door. And detective? I may need your services again soon. Outside, I finally checked Emma's message. Diane had posted photos from last night's dinner party, carefully curated to show her perfect family. There I was, smiling beside Ryan while Mark lurked in the background, perfectly positioned to catch my husband's subtle glances. My phone rang. Natalie this time. I answered. Tell me you've seen the photos, my sister said without preamble. The way Ryan and that Mark guy are looking at each other? Even I can see it, and I wasn't there. I know, Nat. I watched a couple pass by on the street, holding hands, completely unaware their world could shatter with one text message. I have proof now. Real proof. Burn it all down, Natalie said fiercely. Ryan, Diane, their whole perfect facade. It's not that simple. Diane's involved. She's been helping them hide it. A sharp intake of breath. That manipulative witch. Wait, is this why she's suddenly planning that huge birthday gala? Probably trying to maintain appearances. I laughed bitterly. You should see the guest list. Half of Ryan's firm will be there. Including Mark? Front and center. I touched the envelope in my bag. Along with every society gossip in town. Silence stretched between us. Then Natalie spoke slowly. You know, a party like that would be the perfect place to expose everything. That's what I'm counting on. I started walking, my heels clicking against the pavement with new purpose. But I need to be smart about this. Diane's birthday is in 3 weeks. I need to gather more evidence, plan every detail. Leah. Natalie hesitated. Are you sure about this? Public humiliation is pretty nuclear. I stopped at a crosswalk, watching the traffic flow past. They've been humiliating me for a year, Nat, playing me for a fool while Diane orchestrated their perfect cover story. The apartment, the secret meetings, the lies. And now? Now I'm done being their puppet. The walk signal changed, and I stepped forward. I'm going to dismantle their carefully constructed world piece by piece, starting with Diane's precious birthday gala. What do you need from me? I smiled, thinking of the guest list, the venue, the countless opportunities for carefully planned chaos. How do you feel about helping me plan the party of the year? The one where we destroy our dear mother-in-law's social standing and expose her golden boy's secret life? Natalie's grin was audible. Count me in. I ended the call and opened my photos. There they were, Ryan and Mark, caught in moments they thought were private. And Diane, the puppet master, thinking she controlled all the strings. They had no idea what was coming. Sometimes the perfect revenge, like the perfect dinner party, was all about timing. And I had 3 weeks to make it unforgettable. The gala venue sparkled with crystal chandeliers and false promises. I stood in the empty ballroom, watching Diane direct the decorators like a general commanding troops. The flowers should be white roses, not pink, she snapped. And those place cards are all wrong. Leah, darling, please handle this. You know how particular I am. I smiled, the expression fitting like a mask I'd worn too long. Of course, Diane. I'll take care of it. My phone vibrated. Another message from Detective Torres. Urgent update. Meet today? Everything all right? Diane appeared at my shoulder, her perfume cloying. You seem distracted lately. Ryan's worried about you. Is he? I slipped my phone away. That's funny, considering he's barely home these days. Her perfectly lined lips tightened. He's working hard for your future. Some wives would appreciate that. Some mothers would appreciate boundaries. The words escaped before I could stop them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Diane's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, her phone rang. She checked the screen and walked away quickly, speaking in hushed tones. I pretended to adjust table settings while straining to hear. No, absolutely not. He can't attend. Because I said so, that's why. Handle it or I'll find someone who can. 2 hours later, I sat in Torres's office, staring at bank statements that made my hands shake. Your mother-in-law's been busy, he said. That apartment isn't the only thing she's hiding. Offshore accounts? I flipped through the papers. Where did this money come from? That's the interesting part. Torres leaned forward. It's being siphoned from Ryan's company through a series of shell corporations. But here's the twist. Mark's signature is on half these documents. My world tilted again. They're embezzling together? Not exactly. He handed me another file. Mark's being set up. Every transaction has a backup paper trail pointing to him as the sole perpetrator. If this ever comes to light, he'll take the fall. I sat back, pieces clicking into place. Diane's insurance policy. Smart woman. Torres nodded. If Mark ever threatens to expose Ryan, she has everything needed to destroy him. My phone lit up with Emma's message. Found something in Ryan's desk? Come over, now. 20 minutes later, I stood in Emma's kitchen holding divorce papers. Unsigned but dated 3 months ago. They were hidden in a folder marked tax records. Emma said, I was helping him organize his home office while you were out. My fingers traced Ryan's name on the document. He's been planning this. There's more. Emma hesitated. The beneficiary on his life insurance was changed last month. It's all going to Diane now. A laugh bubbled up, bitter as coffee grounds. Of course it is. She's orchestrating everything. Leah. Emma touched my arm. Maybe we should tell someone. The police? No. I straightened, decision crystallizing. I have a better idea. The gala? 2 weeks away. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to Torres's number. Plenty of time to gather what we need. Need for what? I looked up at my best friend, feeling calmer than I had in weeks. To turn Diane's insurance policy against her. Every guest at that party will be someone she needs to impress, including the company's board members. You're going to expose them? Better. I started typing a message to Torres. I'm going to let them expose themselves. All I need to do is create the right circumstances. How? By giving Mark a chance to save himself. I hit send on the message. Once he knows what Diane's planning, he'll have to choose, go down for her crimes or help me destroy them both. Emma's eyes widened. That's actually brilliant and terrifying. I learned from the best. I smiled grimly. Diane taught me everything I know about manipulation. Time to show her what a good student I've been. My phone buzzed with Torres's reply. Found Mark's personal contact. Meeting arranged for tomorrow. You're sure about this? Emma asked. Once you start, there's no going back. I thought about the divorce papers, the changed insurance policy, the elaborate financial trap being laid for Mark. Every move calculated by Diane, every piece positioned just so. They're already destroying lives, I said quietly. I'm just making sure they destroy the right ones. The chandelier light caught my wedding ring, throwing fractured rainbows across Emma's kitchen wall. Soon, very soon, I'd have no more use for pretty illusions. The cafe was nearly empty when Mark slid into the seat across from me. His hands shook slightly as he set down his coffee, spilling a few drops onto the manila envelope between us. These could destroy everything. he said quietly. Not just Ryan and Diane, the whole company. I pushed the envelope back toward him. That's why you're going to help me use them correctly. He looked older than in the surveillance photos, worry lines etching his face. Why should I trust you? Because Diane's setting you up to take the fall. I sipped my tea, watching his expression crumble. Those offshore accounts, they all lead back to you. That's impossible. Ryan does whatever his mother tells him to. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. Just like he'll divorce me when she gives the word. Mark's coffee went untouched. The divorce papers, you found them? Along with the changed insurance policy. I leaned forward. Tell me, Mark, does it bother you being the other woman? His jaw tightened. You don't know anything about us. I know Diane's orchestrating everything. The apartment lease, the shell companies, the careful paper trail that makes you look like an embezzling mastermind. I pulled out my phone, showing him Torres's evidence. One phone call to the SEC and your career is over. What do you want? His voice cracked slightly. Your help destroying them both at Diane's birthday gala. Every board member will be there, along with half of Boston's social elite. You're insane. They'll never... The cafe door chimed. Diane walked in, phone pressed to her ear. Mark went pale, but I'd chosen this cafe for a reason. The large plant beside our table blocked us from the entrance's view. Stay still, I whispered. Diane's voice carried across the quiet space. No, I need those transfers completed before the gala. Yes, all of them. Mark's signature is already on the documents. I don't care how you do it, just make it happen. Mark's hands clenched around his coffee cup as Diane collected her order and left. Still think I'm lying? I asked softly. He stared at the door long after she'd gone. What's your plan? First, you keep playing your part. Let them think everything's fine. I slid a burner phone across the table. I'll contact you with instructions. And if I refuse? Then I'll send these documents to the FBI myself, and you can take your chances with a federal investigation. He finally met my eyes. You've changed. No. I stood, gathering my things. I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. Unlike some people at this table. Later that night, I sat in my car outside Ryan's office building, watching Mark leave first. Then Ryan, 30 minutes later. Their careful routine of separate departures. My phone lit up with Diane's call, right on schedule. Darling, I hope you finished the seating arrangements for the gala. And please tell me you're wearing that blue dress we discussed. Ryan loves you in blue. I watched my husband's car turn toward the apartment he shared with Mark instead of our home. Actually, I thought I'd wear red. A pause. Red is so aggressive. Perhaps we should discuss this over lunch tomorrow. I can't tomorrow. I'm meeting with the caterers. And a forensic accountant, but she didn't need to know that part. Well, I'm sure you'll make the right choice. Her tone carried that familiar note of steel beneath the silk. You always do, don't you? I thought of Mark's shaking hands, of Ryan's separate departures, of Diane's carefully constructed house of cards. Yes, I always do. After hanging up, I pulled out the burner phone, typing quickly, Meeting set with board chairman tomorrow. Be ready. Mark's reply came seconds later. What if this backfires? I watched the lights go on in the apartment window where my husband was building his new life. Then we all burned together. The next message took longer. I never meant for any of this to happen. I started my car, thinking of the red dress hanging in my closet, the color of warning, of blood, of revenge. None of us ever do, but we all choose how it ends. Driving home, I realized I was smiling. Let Diane play her games. Let Ryan hide in his carefully constructed closet. In 10 days, their perfect world would shatter like a champagne glass dropped on marble floors. And I'd be wearing red when it happened. The red dress felt like armor as I entered Diane's gala, the fabric whispering promises of revenge against my skin. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across faces I'd known for years, faces that would soon witness everything crumble. Darling, you came. Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes as she kissed my cheek, though I thought we discussed the dress. Red suits me these days. I handed her a small wrapped package. Happy birthday. Her fingers traced the ribbon. How thoughtful, though you really shouldn't have. Oh, but I insist. Open it later, during your speech. Ryan appeared beside us, his hand settling possessively on my waist. Mother, the board chairman wants to speak with you. Of course. She clutched the package. Leah, do try to mingle appropriately. The moment she left, Ryan's grip tightened. What are you doing? Playing my part. I smiled at passing guests. Isn't that what we all do? I saw you with Mark yesterday. His voice dropped lower. At the cafe. My heart stuttered, but I kept my expression neutral. Spying on me now? Protecting our interests. His fingers dug into my side. Whatever you're planning. Ryan. Mark's voice cut through the tension. He approached with 2 champagne flutes, his hands steady but his eyes wild. Your mother's looking for you. Ryan released me slowly. We'll finish this later. I watched him weave through the crowd, then turned to Mark. Did you do it? The files are in her office. He handed me a champagne glass. But something's wrong. The board chairman, he's not here. What? My carefully constructed plan began to fray. He confirmed yesterday. Diane must have gotten to him. Mark glanced nervously around. We should stop this now. No. I drained my champagne. We adjust. Where's Emma? Haven't seen her. He shifted uncomfortably. Leah, Diane's been making calls all afternoon. She knows something's coming. The room suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. Emma was supposed to be here with the backup copies of everything. Without her. Diane's voice rang out, calling everyone to attention. She stood at the head of the room, my gift in her hands, Ryan at her side. Before I open this lovely present from my daughter-in-law, she smiled directly at me. I have an announcement. No, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. Ryan and Leah have been struggling lately, Diane continued, her voice dripping sympathy. Which is why we're so grateful Leah agreed to seek professional help. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I stepped forward. What? The paranoid accusations, the erratic behavior. Diane's eyes gleamed. We've all noticed, haven't we? But now she'll get the care she needs at Pine Grove Retreat. 2 men in dark suits materialized beside me. Security? No. Medical transport. I recognized the logos on their jackets. You can't do this, I whispered, but the crowd was already nodding sympathetically, buying Diane's performance. It's for the best, Ryan said loudly, playing the concerned husband perfectly. We all want you to get better. I looked for Mark, but he'd vanished. My phone was dead. When had that happened? The security men moved closer. The gift, I said desperately. Open it first. Diane smiled sadly. I think we've had enough drama for one evening. She handed the package to a waiter. Please escort my daughter-in-law out quietly. The security men gripped my arms. I caught a glimpse of Emma finally arriving, horror on her face as she took in the scene. But she was too late. You can't keep lying forever, I called out as they led me away. The truth always comes out. Poor thing, I heard someone murmur. Always knew there was something off about her. The last thing I saw was Diane's triumphant smile as the doors closed behind me. She'd outplayed me, turned my own plan against me. Now I was being taken to a mental health facility, my credibility destroyed, while she stood victorious in her perfectly orchestrated world. In the back of the transport van, I closed my eyes. They thought they'd won, thought they'd silenced me. But they'd forgotten one thing. The package wasn't the real gift, and Emma wasn't just arriving late. She was right on time. Let them celebrate their victory. In exactly 20 minutes, when Diane's computer automatically uploaded everything to the board members' emails, we'd see who was really crazy. Sometimes revenge, like the best surprises, just needed perfect timing. The transport van never made it to Pine Grove Retreat. Emma's call to the police about potential kidnapping saw to that, and 20 minutes later, I walked back into Diane's gala wearing handcuffs like jewelry. The ballroom had erupted into chaos. Phones buzzed with notifications as board members opened their emails. Diane stood at the center, her perfectly composed facade cracking as she stared at her screen. "What have you done?" she whispered as I approached. "Exactly what you taught me." I smiled, showing teeth. "I protected our family's interests." Ryan pushed through the crowd, his face ashen. "The offshore accounts are all public now." I turned to the gathering crowd of board members and socialites, along with proof of who really orchestrated the embezzlement. "You ungrateful little—" Diane lunged forward, but Mark caught her arm. "It's over, Diane." His voice carried across the suddenly silent room. "I've already confirmed everything with the SEC." Ryan's head snapped toward Mark. "You helped her? After you let your mother set me up to take the fall?" Mark's laugh was bitter. "She had forged documents ready to frame me for everything." The board chairman, who hadn't been absent after all, just waiting in the wings, stepped forward. "Mrs. Harrison, I believe we need to discuss these transactions immediately." "This is ridiculous." Diane's voice rose shrilly. "She's clearly unstable. You all saw—" "The only thing they saw," I interrupted, "was your desperate attempt to discredit me before the truth came out. How long have you been stealing from the company to fund your lifestyle, Diane?" "Everything I did was for this family." She whirled on Ryan. Tell them how I protected you, how I made sure you had everything." "Including an apartment to meet Mark in?" I pulled out my phone, showing the lease agreement. "Or did you think that was protecting him too?" The room erupted in whispers. Ryan's face drained of color as his carefully constructed world imploded. "Security," Diane commanded, but no one moved. Her power was evaporating like morning dew. "The police are already on their way." Emma appeared beside me, holding up her own phone, along with FBI agents who are very interested in those offshore accounts. Diane's composure finally shattered. "You think you've won? You think exposing all this makes you better?" She laughed, high and brittle. "You've destroyed this family." "No, Diane." I stepped closer, my voice soft but carrying. "You destroyed it the moment you decided your son's image was more important than his happiness. The moment you chose manipulation over truth. Don't you dare judge me." Her eyes glistened with tears or rage, maybe both. "Everything I built was built on lies." I turned to the stunned crowd. "And now everyone knows exactly who you are." The first police officers entered the ballroom. Ryan moved toward Mark instinctively, then stopped, trapped between his mother and his lover, his manufactured life crumbling around him. "You'll regret this," Diane hissed as officers approached her. "Both of you will." I watched them lead her away, her designer dress catching the chandelier light one last time. Ryan followed, not under arrest, but broken, Mark trailing behind them both. Emma touched my arm. "You okay?" I looked around the ballroom, at the shocked faces, the buzzing phones, the evidence of decades of manipulation and lies laid bare. The red dress suddenly felt heavy, like it had absorbed all the night's drama and pain. "I thought revenge would feel different," I admitted quietly. "More satisfying." "Maybe because it's not really about revenge anymore." Emma squeezed my hand. "It's about truth. And sometimes truth hurts everyone, even the people telling it." As the last police car pulled away, I stood in the entrance of the now empty ballroom. Diane's unopened birthday gift still sat on a table, forgotten in the chaos. Inside was nothing but an empty frame, a perfect metaphor for the life she'd built. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying someone's world, but in forcing them to see it for what it really is. I'd learned that lesson well. Too well, perhaps. The divorce papers felt lighter than I expected, like autumn leaves instead of the heavy chains they'd once represented. My signature was barely dry when Mark appeared in the courthouse corridor. "Diane took a plea deal," he said, keeping his distance. The board voted Ryan out this morning. I nodded, tucking the papers into my bag. And you? Immunity in exchange for testimony. He shifted uncomfortably. Listen, Leah. Don't. I held up a hand. We both did what we had to do. The marble halls echoed with footsteps as other lives unraveled or reformed around us. Through the window, I could see Emma waiting in her car, ready for our planned celebration lunch. He asked about you. Mark said quietly. Ryan, he wanted to know if you'd visit him. And what did you tell him? That some bridges stay burned. A ghost of a smile crossed my face. Speaking from experience? Something like that. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. There's something you should know about Diane. Why she did all this. Inside was an old photograph. Diane, much younger, standing beside another woman who shared her features. They were both wearing wedding dresses. Her sister, Mark explained. Their father disowned her for marrying a woman in the 70s. Diane spent her whole life trying to maintain the perfect family image she thought would have saved her sister. What happened to her? The sister? Died alone in a nursing home while Diane was too afraid to acknowledge her publicly. He took the photo back. She turned Ryan into what she wished she'd been, the perfect child who never strayed from society's expectations. The irony wasn't lost on me, and destroyed him in the process. We all destroy the things we love too much. He started to walk away, then turned back. The apartment lease, I'm surrendering it. Thought you might want it. I watched him disappear down the corridor, thinking of patterns repeating across generations. Love twisted into control. Secrets fossilized into weapons. The apartment was empty when I arrived. Sunlight streamed through bare windows, illuminating dust motes and memories. In the bedroom, a single red tie lay forgotten on the dresser. Ryan's favorite, the one he'd worn the day I discovered the truth. My phone buzzed with Natalie's message. Did you see the news? Diane's statement is everywhere. I hadn't looked. Didn't need to. Some stories were better left unread. The kitchen still held traces of their life together. 2 coffee mugs in the drain board. A shopping list in Ryan's handwriting. I opened drawers until I found what I was looking for. The spare key Mark had mentioned. Standing at the window, I could see the park where Ryan and Mark used to meet, pretending to be strangers sharing a bench. How many lives had been lived in these hidden spaces, these careful gaps between truth and appearance? Emma called as I was leaving. You okay? Need company? I'm good. I locked the door one final time. Just finishing something. At the building's front desk, I handed over the key and lease termination. The doorman smiled, not knowing he was witnessing the end of a story that had nearly destroyed 3 lives. Outside, spring sun warmed my face. My phone showed another missed call. A number I didn't recognize, but somehow knew was Diane's lawyer. Some conversations weren't worth having. I walked to the park, to that bench where so many secrets had been shared. A young couple sat there now, holding hands without hiding, their love simple and unashamed. The prenup money would clear tomorrow. Enough to start fresh, though that hadn't been the point. The point had been truth, in all its messy, complicated glory. In my bag, the divorce papers rustled against an unopened envelope. Ryan's last letter, delivered through his attorney. I'd read it someday, maybe. Or maybe some words were better left unsaid. A street musician played something soft and melancholic as I walked away from the park. The melody followed me, a reminder that even the saddest songs eventually fade into new rhythms. I didn't look back at the bench. Some endings are better faced forward, eyes on the horizon where new stories wait to begin.
It's about Mindy, but she can't stay with your parents for a while. I'll handle weekdays, so can you take care of her on weekends? Are my parents available? How long will this arrangement last? I'm not sure yet. It seems she might not be able to stay with them anymore. Did something happen between you and them? They want to explain the situation directly to you, so please wait for their call. Tomorrow's Saturday, so can you look after Mindy? This is so sudden. I don't know if I can manage. I know it's short notice, and I'm sorry, but this is urgent. I can't change my plans now. Can't they tell something serious is going on from our conversation? The next day, my husband left Mindy with me and went on his trip. He's never been very involved in raising her, but this time it feels different. Wait, where's my credit card? Don't tell me. As I realized my card was missing, I called my husband urgently. Did you take my credit card without asking? Yeah, I needed it for the trip. To think this could happen at home. I've been trying to keep things steady with my in-laws, but now I've decided to leave him. My name is Kate, and at 35 years old, I've been running my own cafe in my hometown for the past 3 years. Business has been steady, and every day feels fulfilling. Ever since my college days working at a cafe, I dreamed of owning my own shop, and I've dedicated myself to making that dream a reality. While I don't regret focusing on my career throughout my 20s, there's one aspect of my life where I feel some regret. I never really dated when I was younger. Now, at 35, my age matches the number of years I've spent without a boyfriend. It's a lingering regret, though I try to convince myself that I made the right choices. Just when I had resigned myself to a life without love, fate intervened. Mind if I bring my little one in here? A parent and child entered my cafe while I was behind the counter. Of course, we're kid-friendly here. Please have a seat. I signaled to my staff to assist them, and as I glanced at the child, a charming little girl of about 3, I noticed her father and recognized something familiar. Determined to confirm my suspicions, I took a glass of water meant for their table and approached them. Excuse me, here's your water. Thank you. The man glanced at me, not recognizing my face. Doubts crept in, but I gathered my courage and spoke up. Could it be? Are you Kyle? Hi? Yes, I am. It's me, Kate. Don't you remember? We were childhood friends until junior high. Oh, Kate, it's been ages. The man, indeed Kyle, was my childhood crush, someone I had admired silently from elementary school through junior high without ever confessing. Kyle was the epitome of popularity, a star athlete and top of his class. He was kind and well-liked by everyone, and I always believed someone like him would never notice a plain girl like me. Are you still living around here? Actually, I moved back after my divorce. Embarrassing, I know. I have custody of my daughter now, but it's tough managing alone. Luckily, my family's nearby and helps out. Even discussing his divorce, Kyle remained as cheerful and handsome as ever, effortlessly keeping the conversation light. As Kyle spoke, his familiar smile from elementary school days hadn't changed a bit. Over time, he started bringing his daughter Mindy to my cafe more often. Listen to this. Yesterday at kindergarten, my friend said, "Hey, Kate is working right now. It's okay, it's all good." At first, Mindy was quiet, but as we grew closer, she began sharing all sorts of stories with me. Perhaps because of this bond, Kyle started showing interest in me. We started dating, and a year later, we were married. At over 35, having once given up on love, marrying my first crush felt like hitting a grand slam. Besides running my cafe, I was ecstatic about being married. Yet, as they say, marriage can bring its challenges. After our wedding, Kyle and Mindy moved into my spacious apartment, where I had felt lonely before. Kyle commuted an hour and a half each way for work out of state, often returning late, mirroring my own late hours at the cafe. After Mindy finished kindergarten, my in-laws graciously cared for her until I could pick her up during my shop's peak hours. "I'm sorry for leaving Mindy with you so often," Kyle would say. "It's no trouble at all. We love having time with our granddaughter," my mother-in-law Linda assured him. "Absolutely. We'd gladly have her with us all the time," added Steve, my father-in-law. I had a warm relationship with my in-laws, which made our arrangement smoother. "Welcome back, Kate. Have you eaten yet? Why not stay for dinner?" "Thank you, but I need to prepare something for Kyle. You can take home some leftovers." Will my brother really be okay with leftovers? He might find it pitiful if it happens too often. Natalie, my teasing sister-in-law, chimed in. With their family business and factory, my in-laws could be flexible with childcare. Natalie, who worked in the office, picked up Mindy from preschool and cared for her during work hours. As life filled up with work, chores, and parenting my older stepdaughter, I found balance thanks to my supportive in-laws. Things weren't as smooth as I'd hoped, especially when it came to my husband. This plain home-cooked meal. Well, it's just that. A home-cooked meal. Isn't that what you'd expect at home? I thought once we were married, we'd eat like we do in restaurants. We can't afford to spend that much time or money on every meal. Seems like Kyle has complaints about my cooking. If he was expecting restaurant quality meals, I'm sorry, but this is what you get at a restaurant owner's home. I can handle the grumbling about food, but Kyle's spending habits are becoming a problem. Kyle, did you buy something again? A package arrived. Oh, has it finally come? It's going to improve the graphics on my PC. How much did that cost? Around $1,100, I think. Spending so much on things like this. It's fine. It'll help with my work. I may not know much about computers, but I can tell that part is for your gaming setup, not for work. He casually dropped $1,100 on a hobby. And it's not just computer parts. Kyle has expensive hobbies like motorcycling, outdoor activities, and golf. I wouldn't mind if he enjoyed them within a budget, but he spends more than we can afford on his income. Kyle, since you switched jobs and came back here, you're earning less than before, right? You should rethink how you're spending money. I earned this money myself. I'm not causing you any trouble, am I? Yes, you are. Please contribute to our expenses. Your cafe is thriving, and you're even planning a second location, right? You're the one making money, so I don't need to contribute to our expenses. I held back the words I wanted to say. Why do I have to cut corners on meals and save money when I'm earning just because you're a business owner? You don't always make the wisest financial decisions. It's frustrating when you impose those values on me at home and in public. Kyle seemed like two different people. It felt like I had been deceived by his public persona. However, he wasn't always so careless. I'm sorry you've been looking after Mindy even on weekends lately. My husband tends to go out on his own. No, I should be the one apologizing. He's been causing Kate trouble. It's okay, we owe you a lot too. By the way, has Kyle always been this careless at home? Not at all. He used to be a responsible older brother and help with childcare. But since his divorce and return home, he's been changing. Well, his divorce was due to his partner's affair. So I can understand why he might be upset. It seems like he's reacting to the shock of the divorce. Knowing this, I sympathize with him to some extent. However, it's been over a year since the divorce, and we're married now, with a daughter. It might sound harsh, but I can't afford for him to dwell on it forever. Starting next month, even if it's just a little, he needs to contribute to our expenses, okay? What are you planning to do with all that money you're saving? I'm not hoarding money. Why are you so fixated on finances, always worrying about it? Why are you accusing me of being fixated? And when will you stop expecting to be pampered? You're not a child anymore. How am I acting like a child? It's only been a year since we got married. This argument was the first big one we've had. I should have spoken up earlier about my concerns, but unlike you, who has more experience in relationships, I didn't know how to handle it. Being called a money grubber, especially by someone who seems so oblivious, really frustrated me. Enough. My husband slammed his fork down and stormed off to the bedroom, like a child having a tantrum. His reaction shattered the image I had of him as a composed adult. Welcome home. You're back early today. I quit. What? You quit your job? Yeah. My boss was incompetent, always giving me wrong directions and then blaming me. I know you had success at your previous job, but every workplace has its challenges, right? You've only been there a year. Shouldn't you build a stronger track record before making such a drastic decision? When my boss is that incompetent, there's no chance to build anything. Instead of contributing to our expenses, my husband lost his job. He started looking for a new job right away, but he was dissatisfied with every interview. He complained about the interviewers' attitudes in the companies not appreciating his skills. It became clear to me that he just wasn't getting hired. My husband gave various reasons, but I knew deep down he wasn't successful in his job search. Eventually, his frustration started affecting our daughter. Don't leave your toys lying around here. They're in the way, my husband snapped, kicking away our daughter's toys in the living room. Hearing her cry, I immediately intervened. What are you doing? She's not bothering anyone. It's just one toy, and she was playing quietly, I argued back. Perhaps because he couldn't find work, my husband seemed increasingly irritable. He had been successful in his younger days, but as time went on, he struggled to accept that others were surpassing him through hard work and experience. His self-worth suffered, and he became bitter. Despite having no income, he didn't cut back on spending. After a while, he even stopped actively searching for a job. Aren't you going to keep looking for work? I asked one day. I can't find a company that values what I bring, he replied. What are we supposed to do then? Why don't you hire me at your cafe? He suggested. You can't even cook an egg, I reminded him. Yeah, I'm more suited to using my brain than my hands, he admitted reluctantly. I was relieved when he dropped the idea. Hiring him at my cafe was out of the question. What's your plan for work? You can't stay unemployed forever. Don't worry, if needed, I can take over my parents' factory. But you don't have any experience in factory work or management. I can learn, I'll figure it out. How about focusing on finding a job first? You can't always rely on taking over the family business. Besides, I can't handle everything alone, especially with Mindy. I was speechless. Dealing with my husband was already exhausting, and now this added worry about Mindy. I can't keep leaving her with your parents. I'll manage during the week, but can you take care of her on weekends instead of going on bike tours or playing golf? Huh? Are mom and dad busy? How long will this last? I'm not sure, but we might need to find another arrangement. Did you have an argument with them? I thought explaining everything to my husband might help, but maybe it's better if they explain it themselves. Your parents want to discuss this with you directly. They'll come over tomorrow to talk about it. What? Are they expanding the factory or something? I'm supposed to take over eventually, so more business would be a good thing. Could you please take care of Mindy tomorrow? It's Saturday. They'll explain everything then. What? You can't just drop this on me now. I'm sorry it's sudden, but this is important. It's been planned with my biking buddies for a while. I can't cancel it. A trip? Why didn't you mention this before? Do I have to run every plan by you? You're busy working, and I handle Mindy on weekends. This involves Mindy and your parents. Can't you change your plans for tomorrow? No way. I need to rest up for it. My husband chuckled, heading to the bedroom. I was furious that he didn't take it seriously, especially when it concerned our daughter and his parents. But I knew I had sprung it on him. I called my manager, arranged extra part-time help, and stayed home to care for Mindy. The next morning, he did go on his trip. With additional staff at the shop, everything ran smoothly without me. But my frustration with his attitude grew into annoyance. By Sunday morning, annoyance turned into anger. I should take the money I withdrew. Kyle's parents were supposed to visit, but his trip ruined those plans. I decided to visit them instead. As I went to get my bank book and cards, I noticed one was missing. Huh? Where's my credit card? I searched everywhere, wallet, bag, shelves, but couldn't find it. The sinking feeling in my gut grew stronger. Could it be? I immediately called my husband. Did you use my credit card without asking? Yeah, I used it for the trip. You were saving money, weren't you? I ran out of cash, so it helped me out. That's not savings. It's money I've been setting aside for Mindy since we got married over a year ago. I've been diligently saving for Mindy's future education and activities. I kept it in my account for convenience, but I must have let my guard down when we shopped together. He must have seen me enter my PIN or put the card away. I never thought I'd be a victim of theft by a family member. I didn't know. My bad. I spent quite a bit yesterday. I won't use it today, so just save up again. How much did you spend? About $5,000, I think. $5,000 in one day? How did that happen? There are 6 of us on this trip, and I'm covering everything. They didn't know it was your money. They thought it was my stash. I'm really sorry. His voice over the phone lacked any remorse. Using someone else's card without permission is unacceptable. You don't understand the value of money. Here we go again with your entrepreneur lecture. Can't you let me enjoy the trip without ruining it? It's just $5,000, right? Can you even earn that much now? What did you say? I can make $5,000 easily, even more. Fine, then you can manage on your own. That's a relief to hear. I ended the call before he could respond further. It seemed he believed he could manage alone. Despite requests from my in-laws, I decided to leave everything behind and leave my husband. After the call, I packed our things, took Mindy, and went to stay with my in-laws for the time being. Oh, Kate, what happened? Well, when I finally told them about my husband taking my card and spending all that money, my in-laws were furious. Kate, you can overlooking his selfishness because you thought he was still hurting from the divorce? I can't believe he would do that to you. We're so sorry you had to go through this. My relationship with my in-laws has been good. I have been confiding in them about the challenges with my husband's behavior. They asked me to be patient a little longer, believing he was still recovering from the divorce. They thought he would eventually return to being the dependable husband he once was. I held on to that hope too. But after a year, I couldn't meet their expectations anymore. I appreciate all your support, but when he said he could manage on his own, I started considering divorce. I looked back on the past year raising Mindy and how much my in-laws helped, even stepping in when I was overwhelmed. Despite the issues with my husband, I cherished our life together. The thought of it ending brought tears to my eyes. I feared my in-laws would resent me for another divorce in a year, but they surprised me with their response. It's Kyle's fault, he's been moping around forever. You should divorce him quickly. Kate, this isn't your fault at all. If anything, we owe you an apology. We're truly sorry for everything. Wait, you're okay with getting a divorce? Of course we support you. He said he can manage on his own, right? Let him be. We'll help you however we can. My in-laws sided with me. I had braced myself for criticism when I told them about my decision to divorce, but instead, I felt a wave of relief. After sorting things out at their place, I initially planned to stay at a hotel, but Mundy and I ended up spending the night with them. When Kyle returned from his trip, he showed up at my in-laws' house, and I confronted him at the door. You're here. Let's go home and stop this stubbornness. I won't go back until you leave. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? That house is mine, so I'm staying. Oh, so you really want a divorce? Just remember, I won't be there when you regret it. As Kyle tried to enter, 3 family members appeared. You're not coming in. What, Dad? What's going on? You keep asking, but you don't understand. We know how you've treated Kate, and we won't support you. Stop acting like a spoiled child. What? Isn't anyone on my side? Kyle paled, realizing he was alone. With no home, job, or savings, his panic was evident. Why are you all taking Kate's side? Aren't we family? Yes, we're related, but Kate has been more of a family to us than you. What do you mean? You have no idea what's going on here, do you? You never bothered to find out. The truth is, we're shutting down the factory. The business has been struggling terribly. You mentioned taking over if you couldn't find a job, but what will you do now that the factory is closing? What? My in-laws had kept the factory's dire financial situation a secret from both Kyle and me. As I picked up Mindy from their house each day, I noticed a sadness beneath their cheerful demeanor, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Natalie, is everything okay? I may not be able to do much, but I'm here to listen if you need to talk. How did you sense that something was wrong? Just a feeling. After learning about the factory's financial troubles, I offered to help with their living expenses. We can't accept your money. I'm not giving you money to save the factory. It's for your daily expenses. I understand the challenges of running a business. Thank you so much. We'll repay you someday. That's not necessary. Instead, please continue to look after Mindy. Think of it as compensation for that. And so, I began sending them money every month, essentially supporting the family. I know they're not on my side because of the money. It's the bond and trust we've built over the years. Despite my own successful business, supporting 3 adults became a financial strain. I had to tighten our household budget. Then, when Kyle used Mindy's savings, I reached my limit. You never told me about this. How was I supposed to know? Kate sensed something was wrong without me saying anything. She promised that if I ever had questions, she wouldn't hide anything from me. But you never showed any concern for us. My in-laws had asked me to be patient with Kyle, thinking his heartbreak over the divorce was the cause. They believed he'd feel worse if he knew about their struggles, so I kept it from him. However, I was ready to share if he showed interest. Even as the situation worsened to the point of closing down the factory, Kyle remained oblivious. I sensed something was wrong, but Kyle didn't notice at all. I'm sure the 3 of them felt lonely because of that. Hey, how was I supposed to notice without any hints? It's not easy. You're not really going to leave me, are you? I'm getting a divorce. I can't stay with someone who sulks, acts spoiled, and steals. It's just not possible. Kate means more to me than my own brother ever did. The in-laws nodded in agreement. Today, Mindy and I will stay here, so you should go home. But don't come back tomorrow. I'll contact you to discuss the divorce details. Don't come here either. Feeling perhaps grateful for having somewhere to go for now, Kyle silently left his in-laws' house. Watching him go, I realized that my marriage, which started with no prior romantic experience, had ended in just 1 year. The divorce proceedings with my husband went smoothly. Although he used my credit card without permission, money saved for our daughter, it was considered part of our joint assets, so he wasn't charged with theft. Instead of demanding repayment of the $5,000 he spent, I asked for a quick and amicable divorce. Recovering the money seemed unlikely given his dire situation, cut off from my family and unemployed. Pursuing the $5,000 would only add to his troubles. Hence, he swiftly agreed to the divorce. In a way, it felt like buying a divorce for $5,000. A bargain. Custody of Mindy went to my ex-husband. It was a tough decision, but given his circumstances and the support offered by my ex-in-laws, I relinquished custody. While I don't have custody, I maintain a close relationship with my daughter through regular visits. Conversely, my ex-husband, now estranged from us, cannot return to his parents' home and thus cannot see Mindy. He lost his job, money, and family due to his dependency. I opened my second store to support myself. Hiring Natalie as an employee helped expand my team. Additionally, instead of demolishing the factory, I found a tenant through a contractor working on my second store. This arrangement allowed my ex-in-laws to earn rental income. Although there is some remaining debt, their pension and rental income should sustain them. Closing the factory initially seemed dire, but I'm glad I could assist them in some way. Today, I'm eager to visit my daughter. I'm counting down the hours at work, looking forward to our time together. When I asked Robert why he had made a family card for his in-laws without consulting me, he laughed and said, "Because they're my family, of course. They deserve a family card, right? Got a problem with that? If you knew who took you in when you were all alone, you wouldn't be able to say such things." His arrogant tone was shocking. I had never heard him speak like that before. Was this who Robert really was? "If you're grateful, you should do more for my family. Then I'll acknowledge you as part of the family. Until then, it's like you're on a provisional license," he continued. I had never heard of such a concept in marriage. Robert pressed further, seeing my silence. "In other words, you're not yet a formal member of the family. If you don't like it, you can leave any time." "Okay. For now, our family is just the 5 of us. Useless parasites out. Understood." Immediately after that conversation, I canceled all our joint credit cards and moved out. My name is Emily Welder, and I'm 27 years old. I'm a freelance illustrator. I used to work as a designer for a major advertising agency, but I went independent 2 years ago when I got married and now work from home. My parents died in an accident when I was young, and I was raised by my maternal grandparents. After starting college, I moved back to the apartment near the city center where I have lived with my parents and have been living there ever since. I met my husband Robert at the Italian restaurant where he worked. It was a cozy place with great food and reasonable prices, so my colleagues and I started dropping by often. That's how Robert, the charming waiter, became a regular topic of conversation. He was undeniably handsome, and the manager once joked that a good portion of their regular customers came just to see him. It was easy to understand why. I'll admit, I became one of Robert's fans too. He had that kind of charisma. Somehow, we quickly grew closer, and before I knew it, we were being called a couple. To my surprise, we eventually got married. I don't recall much about that time. It feels like I was in a daze, and then suddenly there was this man next to me who I called my husband. But despite everything, I loved Robert deeply then, and I was genuinely happy to marry him. I left my job as a designer at the company where I worked and started freelancing. It was a smooth transition, and I continued doing what I loved. Robert kept his job at the restaurant, which meant his hours varied, sometimes late into the night. It became challenging to maintain a regular schedule, and since I had always wanted to work independently, I took the leap. "It's a good move, Emily. It'll be easier for you, and you'll get to focus on the work you enjoy," Robert agreed, and that marked the beginning of our married life. Neither of us cared for extravagant ceremonies, so we opted for a simple registration of our marriage, meeting each other's families in person. While Robert worked, I managed the household and worked from home. Our schedules were erratic, but we cherished the moments when we could share meals together. Life felt happy and fulfilling, and I thought to myself, marriage is wonderful. However, about a year after we got married, Robert dropped a bombshell. "My family wants to visit. Is that all right?" Naturally, I agreed. I had only briefly met Robert's family during our initial introduction, so I saw this as an opportunity to get to know them better. Having lost my parents at a young age, I had always admired the sense of family that Robert seemed to have. When Robert's family of 4 arrived, I was taken aback. "Hey, which room is mine?" his sister demanded as soon as they stepped into our home. At 32 years old, she was older than both Robert and me, and I knew she worked at a local supermarket. Her abrupt and rude manner shocked me, a stark contrast to the polite greeting she had given when we first met. Robert's 18-year-old sister accompanied her, quiet and withdrawn, much like she had been during our initial meeting. Caught off guard by Robert's sister, I quickly showed them to the guest room, while Robert's parents were settled into the only Japanese-style room in our apartment, which had belonged to my parents before. I thought it would be the most suitable space for them. Once settled, Robert's sister announced, "Since we're all living together now, you better start serving our family properly." Confused by her statement, I turned to Robert for clarification, only to find him laughing in a way I had never witnessed before. It soon became clear that his family had relinquished their own home and moved in with us without informing me. "Sorry, our family home had to be vacated suddenly, and they had nowhere else to go," Robert explained casually. "I wish she had shared this information sooner. I had assumed their stay would be temporary, not a permanent arrangement." This unexpected turn of events was incredibly inconvenient. When I cautiously voiced my concerns to Robert, he looked remorseful and apologized, asking me to bear with the situation just until they find somewhere else. Unable to turn away people in need, especially the family of someone I cared deeply about, I reluctantly agreed to let them stay, under the condition that they find alternative housing as soon as possible. Little did I know then, I would soon come to regret this decision deeply. Robert's family showed no restraint. From the day they moved in, all four of them did nothing and left everything to me, speaking freely and making demands. They showed no initiative in finding a house or jobs. When I asked about their employment, I was surprised yet again. "Oh, I quit that lousy supermarket job," Robert's sister announced. She was employed part-time, but I had assumed she held a full-time position given her age. She confessed she hadn't held steady work since high school. Robert's parents were also in part-time roles and had quit their jobs before moving in. As for Robert's sister, she was unemployed, despite claiming to be a student. Why should I work now that I'm part of a wealthy family? Wealthy family? Who was she referring to? When I asked, her response shocked me once more. "You, of course. You received a large settlement and insurance payout from your parents' accident, and you don't even have a mortgage on this apartment. You can live without working," Robert's sister remarked, laughing. I protested to Robert when he returned home, but he responded with a level of intensity I had never witnessed before. "Everyone's exhausted from suddenly leaving their home. Let them rest for a while. Or do you want to heartlessly kick out my family, Emily?" Stunned into silence, I froze. Then just as suddenly, Robert softened his tone. "I'm sorry for shouting. It's been tough for me too. I've been busy, exhausted. Can you understand today, just a little longer?" Robert knew how to handle situations with women. Looking back, perhaps he always used a mixture of kindness and firmness to manipulate women, but in that moment, I didn't realize it. Reluctantly, I agreed to endure a little longer. The oppression from Robert's family only grew worse. They treated me like a servant at home, demanding money whenever we went out. "We can't look for jobs without some cash, can we?" "It's okay, but if we don't find work, we'll just stay here." Reluctantly, I handed over money, which they quickly claimed to have spent without any luck in their job search. I doubted they even bothered to look, but confronting them would only lead to accusations and hours of blame from Robert's family. Bringing it up with Robert didn't help. "Everyone's frustrated about the job hunt. I'm sorry, just hang in there a bit longer. I'll talk to them," he said, trying to smooth things over. Yet over time, it seemed pointless to speak up at all. However, the requests for money gradually dwindled, perhaps because of Robert's intervention, and the issue seemed to sort itself out. After 3 months of enduring this situation, I noticed something deeply troubling. Why is the credit card bill so high? Could there be unauthorized charges? Upon a quick inspection of the statement, all the expenses were charged to family credit cards. The purchases ranged from necessities like food and drinks to luxuries such as books, games, and expensive designer items. Each transaction bore a number from 1 to 5, indicating that 5 family credit cards had been issued, all under my name, with Robert utilizing them. "It seemed like you'd managed this better, and it's more convenient to consolidate payments, right? Can I count on you for this?" he said, leaving me to handle it. Yet it appeared these family cards were issued without my knowledge. The requests for money from Robert's family had ceased because they were now using these credit cards for payments and cash withdrawals. When I confronted Robert about issuing these family cards without my consent, he chuckled dismissively. Well, you always complain when they say they have no money. What choice did I have? Besides, remember who took you in when you were alone. Can you really refuse something to the esteemed family of your benefactor? His arrogant tone stunned me. It was unlike anything I had heard from him before. Had Robert always been like this? If you're grateful, you should serve my family more. Then I'll accept you as part of the family too. Until then, consider yourself on a trial basis. I had never heard of a trial phase in marriage. As I sat in silence, Robert continued, this means you're not officially part of the family yet. If you don't like it, you can leave anytime. Right now, it's just the five of us. Useless parasites should leave. That moment revealed Robert's true nature to me. I felt as though all the blood had drained from my body. Shocked, I contemplated divorcing him. In fact, I began questioning why I had married Robert in the first place. Initially, I was simply drawn to his looks, like other girls enamored by his handsome appearance. Then, on one occasion when I left to use the restroom, Robert approached me. You seem different from other people, Emily. Huh? I don't quite know how to describe it. Mystical. Sorry, it's probably not something I should say to a customer. I was taken aback. As this continued, I gradually began to notice Robert's intentions. Perhaps this was his strategy to make me like him. Reflecting on it calmly, it started to make sense. I remembered the time Robert started chatting with me at our table after a colleague jokingly mentioned I was a well-off girl living alone in a condo. It was right after that comment that Robert took an interest in me. It seemed clear now that he might have been drawn to my perceived wealth and condo. Robert wasn't really my type. Politely put, he was modern. Bluntly put, he seemed somewhat frivolous. I preferred mature men who spoke quietly and seriously, yet somehow I found myself falling for Robert. It always puzzled me. Robert was the archetypal handsome guy, skilled at charming women, especially someone like me who was new to relationships and the working world. I fell for his tactics and ended up marrying him. The thought frustrated and embarrassed me so much I felt like tearing everything apart in the house, but I wasn't foolish enough to act on that impulse. Instead, I resolved to seek revenge in my own way. Just as Robert manipulated me, I would gain control over his entire family. The condo we now lived in was purchased by my father with a mortgage shortly after I was born. It wasn't considered expensive back then, but the area developed rapidly with a new shopping center nearby, transforming it into a luxury property. Hoping for more children, my parents bought a spacious condo. This history meant there was enough space even with Robert's family moving in, though their presence was becoming increasingly burdensome. Working from home, I endured it all with revenge in mind. As Robert's sister had remarked, there were no mortgage payments on this condo. When I was 3 years old, both of my parents tragically passed away in a car accident. They were returning from my paternal grandfather's funeral when their car collided with a speeding vehicle on the freeway. I was supposed to be with them that day, but a severe flu kept me at home with my maternal grandparents, who ended up caring for me as the sole survivor. Thanks to group credit life insurance, the mortgage was covered, and now I only paid for management fees and property taxes. Robert, upon seeing the amount, suggested contributing slightly more to our household expenses. With no mortgage to worry about, if I chip in that much, we should manage fine with Emily's income, right? We can each use our own earnings for personal expenses. Sounds fair, doesn't it? He proposed. I agreed, thinking it made sense. Until then, I had been solely responsible for all expenses, so I welcomed his offer, though in hindsight, it was naive. At the time, I was blinded by my love for Robert and went along with whatever he suggested. Perhaps Robert believed himself to be the head of the household and my main support, which gave him the audacity to label me a parasite. The reality was different. I covered most expenses, utilities, groceries, social outings, and entertainment. Now, with 5 additional dependents, it was becoming impossible to manage on just that contribution. I desperately wanted to rid myself of them but pretended not to notice, enduring silently. I gritted my teeth while Robert's family freely indulged in shopping, reminding myself that I would have the last laugh in the end. Then, 3 months after deciding on a divorce, the moment of action arrived. I'm exhausted. It's time to decide. It's either me or your family. I confronted Robert, presenting him with an ultimatum. He appeared surprised, but I pressed on without hesitation. None of your family members lift a finger to help around here. They dump all their responsibilities on me. I work from home. I'm not idling away my time. Yet they treat me like a freeloader, claiming you support me. I've had enough, I declared, tears welling up as I poured out my frustrations to Robert. He looked at me with a smirk and said, "Then maybe you should leave. Didn't I tell you before? You're not really part of this family yet. Giving up now means you haven't earned your place." I feigned shock as I stared back at Robert. "What's surprising?" he continued. "If you can't live with my family, then maybe it's you who needs to go. And since I'm not to blame, I'll take this apartment as alimony and half of your savings as part of the property division." Ah, so that was his plan all along. That explained why his family had been pressuring me, trying to force me out. I had suspected it, but hearing it confirmed was still a shock. It was someone I had loved and married, after all. But hearing his intentions laid bare, I made up my mind. "Fine," I replied firmly, deciding to divorce Robert. "But this condo is mine, and I'm not at fault here either." "What did you say?" "I'm divorcing you because you allowed your family to move in without consulting me, and they've ignored and harassed me ever since," I asserted, standing my ground against Robert's surprised expression. It was a rare moment of defiance after years of compliance in our marriage, and the realization angered me. "I don't want to spend another moment here with any of you. I'm leaving now, and you should prepare to leave as well." "You can't be serious. This is our home." "We're not leaving," Robert protested. "Ever heard of residency rights? You can't just kick people out." Ignoring his protests, I left the house and went straight to my grandparents' place. I explained everything to them and asked if I could stay till things were settled. My grandparents were shocked to hear what I had endured and scolded me gently for not seeking their help sooner, tears welling in their eyes. "Grandma, Grandpa, I'm sorry for worrying you, but I'll be okay now. You know I may seem quiet, but I'm not weak," I assured them with a forced smile, tears of my own brimming. The day after I left the apartment, Robert contacted me immediately. "Hey, what's going on?" "What do you mean?" "The certified mail." I was impressed by the speed of action. I had entrusted the divorce proceedings to a lawyer, and when I informed them the previous day that I had left the house, they had arranged for everything to be delivered promptly. "I'm not paying any alimony, and I'm not leaving the condo, just so you know," Robert declared. "But legally, you're obligated to pay, and you don't have the right to stay in that apartment," I replied firmly. "What are you talking about? That apartment is mine too. We're married. If you insist, then buy me out with half its value. Your claim is absurd. We're not going to resolve anything by talking like this. Please communicate through my lawyer from now on," I said, ending the call. I knew he would likely call again tomorrow, but I had no desire to continue the conversation that day. As expected, he called the next morning. "Hey, what's going on?" He repeated the same line as the day before. No creativity at all. "What do you mean?" "The cards aren't working." "What did you do?" "What I did was cancel it. That card was mine. You were just using the family card, remember?" Indeed, before leaving the house, I had transferred all the contracts from that card to another and canceled it. Naturally, the family cards would stop working when I canceled mine. "I was paying for it too," he protested. "Yes, you paid the management fee and property taxes for the first 2 months. It's not much, but we can deduct that from the alimony if you prefer," I retorted sarcastically, hearing muffled shouting from the other end of the phone. Indeed, Robert had only kept up with the agreed payments for 2 months. He frequently made excuses about work and other matters, always finding a reason to delay further payments until he eventually stopped altogether. Whether he genuinely forgot or not was irrelevant to me now. He was someone I was severing ties with, and his lapses in memory held no weight. That's the situation. Please also contribute your share of the living expenses I've been covering. I've maintained a detailed household ledger, which I'll present as evidence, I continued firmly. "Fine, and let's divide our savings evenly. It's marital property," he demanded. "Agreed. We'll split it accordingly," I replied, and he ended the call with a parting reminder for me not to overlook anything. "Hey, what's all this about?" A few days later, I received another call with the same inquiry. It seemed they were not only forgetful but also lacking in vocabulary. "What do you mean, the division of shared property? Why does it show a 0? You must have plenty from your parents' insurance and alimony," he accused. "Ah, so that's what they thought." I patiently clarified that my premarital savings weren't part of the shared property, and since we hadn't accumulated savings during our marriage, it naturally amounted to 0. "Don't lie to me. If you doubt my honesty, feel free to seek advice from someone else." From now on, all communication should go through my attorney. I will be speaking with you directly anymore. Goodbye, I stated firmly before hanging up and blocking Robert's number. 2 months after I left the apartment, Robert and his family finally moved out. Not because they had a change of heart, but because they couldn't sustain their lifestyle. Naturally, Robert's income alone couldn't support a family of 5. Accustomed to extravagant shopping using my credit card, asking them to cut back was futile. I had allowed them intentional access to the card, anticipating this outcome. His family began pressuring Robert for money, and when he refused, they resorted to stealing from his wallet. Despite Robert's anger, they blamed him for my departure. To exacerbate matters, the utilities, electricity, gas, and water, were shut off. I had arranged for this since I had no intention of returning anytime soon. Robert tried desperately to have them restored over the phone, but the condo was in my name, and only the owner could authorize reconnection. Unable to endure the summer heat and unable to bathe, his family eventually vacated the condo. Where they went afterward, I neither know nor care. Robert struggled to stay until the end but ultimately gave up due to the harsh conditions. The divorce proceedings progressed swiftly, not due to a change of heart on Robert's part, but because of his own missteps. He had been unfaithful while we were married, making advances towards someone else under the assumption he could soon push me out. He boasted about owning a luxury downtown apartment, using it to entice young women. Surprisingly, this family overlooked this behavior, accustomed to his past indiscretions due to his good looks. I hadn't anticipated such actions, installing cameras throughout our home that captured undeniable evidence. Perhaps he underestimated me, but his disrespect was clear. He allowed his family into my home without my consent, created a family card that left me with the bills, evicted me, and betrayed me. In response, I demanded substantial alimony for his actions. When Robert saw the amount, he paled and desperately begged for reconciliation, but I had no intention of relenting. Aware of his financial limitations, I compelled him to borrow extensively from his company, taking whatever I could secure. Threatening legal action over the family card, I eventually coerced him to agree to my terms. Now, I trust he will diligently repay his debts. With the divorce finalized, I remain at my grandparents' home. The fate of the apartment is undecided, though sentimental, inherited from parents I barely remember. Recent events weigh heavily on its significance. My career as an illustrator flourishes, thriving even while staying with my grandparents. Their support strengthens me, and in time, I will move forward independently. This experience has taught me valuable lessons. I will no longer be deceived by mere appearances. Instead, I seek a partner with whom I can genuinely share my life. Finally finished. Who would have thought funerals could be so draining? That was your son's funeral. How can you say that? Just stating facts. We're not alone here. I suppose that includes me. It's partly her fault our boy is gone. My mother-in-law's never liked me since I married, but blaming me for my husband's death. Shouldn't we mourn and remember his life? Yet the accusations keep coming. My father-in-law tries to calm things, but she won't hear it. If he hadn't married you, he'd be here, holding his grandchild. I clenched my fists, seething. Frustration and anger boiled inside me. My mother-in-law's disdain followed us from the funeral home. When I got home, I collapsed into sleep, trying to forget. And then, the next morning, could you grab the paper? Hurry, please. If only it were a dream. I checked the mailbox as asked. Alongside the newspaper, a brown envelope lay. An envelope. Who's it from? I retrieved it, finding no name, just a message. Make sure Mom doesn't find out. With those words, I knew the sender and the recipient. I pocketed the envelope and returned indoors. Took you long enough. You're useless. I tossed aside the paper and slipped back to the bedroom to open the envelope. Inside, revelations in familiar script hit me like a blow. Anger and fear surged, nearly overwhelming me. I fought to steady myself, taking a deep breath. I'm going to make my move, I thought, springing into action. My name is Tala, just an ordinary stay-at-home wife. John, my husband, and I clicked instantly when we met as college classmates. Right from the start, John harbored lofty ambitions and a strong desire to move out of his parents' house. Don't you think you're rushing things? No, I don't want to rely on my parents anymore. But we're still students. That's exactly why. We have time now, and I want to make the most of it. Meanwhile, I was content to savor college life. Being in the same department made our relationship feel natural. By junior year, John was ready to execute his plan. Things are going to get hectic. Will you help me? Of course. What do you need me to do? Thank you. First, I wanted to start a company while still in school. The reasons were the same as before, but there was another. It had already been decided that I would join my father-in-law's company after graduation. I wanted to carve out my own path. A month later, we successfully launched the company. It's just the beginning, but we've taken the first step. Thank you. What are you talking about? It's too early for thanks. The real challenge is just beginning. Indeed, I'm counting on you going forward. Leave it to me. Together with John and a few others, we founded a company aimed at operating a media platform providing everything from gaming and comics to practical life hacks. We expanded into various forms of media, but John's primary focus was a website offering information about adoption. I've always wondered, why did you start an adoption site? I had a friend in high school who was adopted. The more I heard his stories, the more intrigued I became. Everyone talks about the perspective of the adoptive parents, but adopted kids have their own thoughts, right? That makes sense now that you mention it. I want to contribute somehow. John ended up taking charge of that site almost single-handedly. Meanwhile, our company flourished, gaining praise for its wealth of information, accuracy, and the humor John infused into it. It even garnered a small mention in magazines. But one day, just before graduation, you seem a bit down today, don't you? Yeah. I told my parents about the company yesterday, and they exploded. Why? They probably wanted me to get a traditional job. Mom, especially, was furious. Even after that, John seemed occasionally gloomy. Some nights, he couldn't sleep until morning and ended up needing sleeping pills. Seeing him like that, I resolved to support him for life. The day before our graduation, John finally managed to convince them, and I saw a genuine smile on his face for the first time in a while. Now I'm finally free. I can live for myself now. Speaking of which, should we move in together? Yeah, definitely. Our life together, both professionally and personally, began to blossom. This continued for about 4 years until my birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you. It's always special to be celebrated like this. Your happiness means everything to me, so. John grew serious, pulled a small box from his pocket, and placed it on the table. What's this? I want you to marry me. When John opened the box, a sparkling ring lay inside. Of course, I had been hoping for this moment for a long time. I should be the one asking you. Please always be by my side. He took my hand and slid the ring on. It fit perfectly, but something about it bothered me. Why is the box a little bent? I was debating when to give it to you. I've been carrying it in my pocket the whole time, and it got like this. He must have been really nervous. Hearing this, I fell even more in love with him. The only concern left was meeting his parents. Are you alright? I'm fine. Actually, I'm nervous. With me here, it'll be fine, right? We first visited my parents, and everything went smoothly. They accepted John. Today, we were meeting his parents. From the moment we arrived at their house, John seemed somewhat uneasy. Why did you come back here? This is my family's home, so it should be okay. All right, come in quickly. Observing their exchange, I couldn't help but wonder if everything would be all right. In the living room, his father and an unfamiliar girl were sitting on the sofa. Welcome back, John. Please have a seat. When his mother offered us tea, there was none for me, hinting that I wasn't entirely welcome. To get to the point, I'm here today because I want to marry this lady, Tala. Is that so? You're at that age now. Mary, I don't approve. Why not? Marrying such a mysterious woman. Please calm down, but it's John's decision. It's not our place to criticize. Eventually, with my father-in-law's persuasion, they reluctantly agreed to our marriage. Then the girl sitting next to my father-in-law spoke up. Congratulations on your marriage, brother. Thank you, Jolie. Let's get along, Tala. I'd like that too, Jolie. I'd love to get to know you better. We embarked on our new life together with no doubts about our happiness. However, that belief didn't last long. On our way back from the meeting, do you have a sister? Yes, I do. We don't really look alike though. I'm an only child, so I don't know much about having siblings. Do you think we don't look alike either? Sorry, it's nothing. Let's just hurry home, okay? At that moment, John's expression seemed surprised. Later, our marriage registration was approved, and we officially became husband and wife. The excitement was palpable, but our honeymoon phase came to an abrupt end after just 1 week. Hey, why are you here? I have something important to discuss today. Let me in. Wait a minute, please. Without waiting for a response, my mother-in-law barged in and flung open the living room door. Why are you here? Isn't that a bit rude? So what's the matter? After you guys visited, your father started feeling unwell. Father did? Yes, that's right. According to my mother-in-law, it seemed my father-in-law had been experiencing health issues for a while. John appeared unaware of this. Then my mother-in-law dropped a bombshell. He's been diagnosed with cancer. What? He wants to recuperate at home, but it's just me and Jolie here, right? So, you're saying we should move in? Yes, exactly. I felt a chill seeing my mother-in-law smirk. John clearly struggled with the decision. I knew from our college days that he had a strong desire to leave his family home, but given his father's condition, his hesitation was understandable. As John wrestled with his response, what do you think? Me? I hadn't expected to be put on the spot like that. Obviously, I wasn't prepared. Well, I think. You're not planning to abandon him, are you? No, that's not what I'm thinking at all. Then what? Normally, you'd answer right away, wouldn't you? As my mother-in-law cornered me, John stepped in to defend me. Please stop blaming Tala. We'll move in. That's a relief. I'll let your father know. All right then, goodbye. My mother-in-law left with a satisfied look. Once she was gone, John sighed and held his head in his hands. I'm sorry I've caused trouble for Tala because of me. Don't apologize. It's not your fault. Just when things were starting to look up, why does something always have to get in my way? What do you mean? Every time I'm about to start something new, something happens. But I'm here with you, right? Yeah, that's true. We quickly terminated our apartment lease to prepare for moving in with John's parents. From the way my mother-in-law treated me, I could sense the future wouldn't be easy. Soon enough, our life living with the in-laws began. I'm glad you could make it. Let's get along. But first, there's something I need you to do, Tala. What's that? My back has been bothering me lately. First off, I'd like you to clean the house. We haven't even unpacked yet. Come on, don't waste time. Let's get started. From then on, I simply followed orders. John pitched in, but my mother-in-law showed little concern. A week into living with them, I began noticing things. This family seemed to revolve around my sister-in-law, Jolie. Despite John being part of the family, there were moments he felt like an outsider. However, both my father-in-law and Jolie appeared cautious of my mother-in-law's behavior. Do you understand how things work in this family now? Yeah, I'm starting to get it. That's why I was hesitant to come back here. What about Jolie? Any thoughts on her? I'm not sure. We've lived as siblings, but honestly, I can't rate her. Is that so? Indeed, my sister-in-law Jolie was friendly and had treated me well, just as John had said. Yet there was an enigmatic aura about her, as if she harbored some hidden darkness. Amidst all this, I found myself tasked with caring for my father-in-law, while my mother-in-law did nothing. Your father is calling for you. Go see what he needs. Okay. Taking a deep breath before entering his room, I asked, what do you need? There's something I need your help with. As I approached my father-in-law, he shockingly placed his hand on my backside. What are you doing? No need to resist so much. This is just family affection. That's not true at all. My mother-in-law had mentioned that my father-in-law was weakened by cancer treatments. However, the strength he used to grab my arm and attempt to pin me down suggested otherwise. Please stop. Do you really want John to find out about this? It would cause quite a scandal. In that moment, I involuntarily weakened my resistance. Seizing the opportunity, my father-in-law tried to undress me. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I pushed him away with all my strength. Unfortunately, that was precisely when my mother-in-law walked in. What's going on? Your husband was trying to pin me down. Your father would never do such a thing. Please believe me. I had turned to the wrong person for help. Having an affair with your father-in-law while your husband is around. What kind of woman are you? I didn't do anything like that. If you don't want John to find out about this, you'll do as we say. It was a conditional demand. Despite my father-in-law being at fault, I couldn't bear the thought of John finding out. I understand. It was much later that I realized this was a scheme devised by both of them. While my father-in-law never directly approached me again, The fear of his potential actions lingered. My work suffered, and my mistakes multiplied. You seem tired lately. Are you okay? Well, yeah. Maybe you should take a break. Don't worry about work. It's not about that. Is it my mother and the others? I'll handle it. Following John's advice, I took a leave from work and became a full-time homemaker. Being home all the time was mentally and physically draining, but I didn't want to let John down. He had spoken to his parents to ensure they wouldn't overwhelm me. Things got slightly better, but the harassment never ceased completely. If you're staying at home, can't you be more useful? More useful. From now on, you'll do as I say. She handed me a list of items she wanted me to buy. All of this today. Of course, get moving if you don't want John to find out. I had no choice but to comply. The list included items from nearby supermarkets to a distant store requiring several train rides for her favorite classic American sweets. By the way, you'll be paying for it, naturally. Already past noon, I hurried to avoid missing John's return. I returned at 7:00 p.m. I got everything. It took you this long, even a child could do it faster. Enough, just get out of my sight. I went back to my room and lay on the bed, pondering what I was doing as I stared at the ceiling. Someone knocked on the door. Instinctively, I sat up and responded. The door opened slowly, revealing my sister-in-law, Jolie. Jolie, what's going on? I'm sorry. Huh? I should have been more cautious. What do you mean? About Dad and Mom. My heart nearly stopped. Oh, you don't need to hide it. I overheard Dad and Mom talking accidentally. I see. I'll protect you, Tala. I can't let you do that, Jolie. Please let me handle this. I have a plan, but about John, I was resolved to keep this hidden from John at any cost. That will be fine. Jolie's presence was incredibly comforting for me, unable to confide in John. I have felt isolated, but not anymore. Later, Jolie made a surprising announcement when everyone was gathered. I've decided to work at John's company from now on. What? What are you saying? You're in a good university. You could get a job at a much better company. I've already made my decision. Jolie was set to graduate from university next year. Despite being capable of securing a position at a more prestigious firm, as our mother-in-law suggested, why did she choose John's company of all places? It would have been better if it were at least Dad's company. Mom, that's enough. Jolie wants to do this. But then my father-in-law whispered something to my mother-in-law. Well, that might be a good idea. She suddenly changed her stance, leaving me wondering about what my father-in-law might have said. And John, take care of Jolie, will you? Yeah, what kind of response is that really? After Jolie graduated from college, she officially joined John's company. With her intelligence and talent, she quickly took on various responsibilities. Around this time, my father-in-law started treating me unusually kindly. Given our history, this newfound kindness reignited my fears. Then something astonishing occurred. Tala, I owe you a sincere apology. An apology? Yes, I understand, and I'll speak to Mom as well. I'm truly sorry. I was bewildered by what was unfolding before me. Moreover, my father-in-law even prostrated himself. I apologize once more. Please, raise your head, but I still need time to trust you. Let me observe the situation for a while. Understood. That's fair. True to his word, my mother-in-law's harassment abruptly ceased. However, this peace felt like the calm before a storm. While life became more tranquil without the bullying, John's behavior began to concern me. You've been working too much lately. It's a critical period right now. That may be true, but this isn't healthy. I have to do this now, so why? But John didn't relent. Jolie and I discussed this peculiar situation. What's going on with John? I know work is important, but I'm sorry, I'm not sure either. But if this continues, yes, that's why we need to do something about it. We tried urging John to take more breaks, but he seemed to immerse himself in work, perhaps to avoid something else. Not only that, he began increasing the dosage of the temporary sleeping pills he had been taking. Just as I felt we needed to intervene, I received devastating news from my father. My mother had been in a car accident and did not make it home. Please come home immediately. Okay. I was concerned about John, but his current state made it impossible to bring him along. Take care of John during this time, please. Yes, leave him to me, my brother. And so, I returned to my family home. Seeing my mother's lifeless body, I was overwhelmed with questions. What had happened? Welcome back. I had to come. How is John, by the way? John. I filled my father in on John's situation. I see. John, huh? I'm worried about him, but right now we need to properly send off Mom, don't we? Soon after, preparations for my mother's funeral began, and the service commenced. One might expect tears at such times, but I couldn't bring myself to cry. Throughout the funeral, I felt more numb than sorrowful. I still couldn't grasp the reality of my mother's absence. Before I knew it, the funeral had ended. Are you alright? Yeah, but it still feels unreal that Mom's gone. It's strange not having our noisy mom around. Yeah, she was always keeping us in line. Did I really cause that much trouble? Yes, you did. That night, Dad and I stayed up late reminiscing about Mom. I must have drifted off on the sofa because I woke to the morning sun streaming through the window. Did you sleep well? Yes. Tala, you should go back now. Huh? John must be waiting for you. Go back to him. Are you sure? I'm sure Mom would have wanted it that way. Then I'll do that. As I prepared to leave, my phone rang. It was Jolie, my sister-in-law. Hello, Jolie. What's wrong? It's about my brother. What happened to John? He wouldn't wake up, so I rushed to his room. I hurriedly left my family's home and headed to the hospital. Tala. Jolie spotted me and ran over. Jolie, what's going on? As my sister-in-law wept uncontrollably. Where's John? Jolie pointed, and I saw John's parents standing nearby. I guided Jolie to a nearby sofa and approached cautiously. Opening the door gently, I saw a figure covered with a white sheet. 2 police officers were inside the room. Are you his wife? Yes. What happened to John? We're investigating it as a possible suicide. Suicide? That's impossible. My hands trembled. I pulled back the white sheet, revealing John lying there as if in peaceful slumber. Reality hit me like a tidal wave, and I crumpled to the floor, feeling like a marionette with its strings cut. Jolie hurried over, helped me up, and gently led me out of the room. Why would John? I don't understand, I murmured. I don't either, Jolie replied softly. She explained how she grew concerned when John didn't wake up at his usual time. When she checked on him, she discovered him lifeless in bed. Despite calling for an ambulance, it was too late. The police speculated suicide due to the empty sleeping pill containers found in the trash. None of John's family had seen him since he retired to his room. This can't be real. He was struggling, but he wouldn't do this to us. I know, it's unimaginable that he would. The autopsy later confirmed that John had died from an overdose of sleeping pills prescribed to him during his hospital visits. Now, just after losing my mother, I had to endure my husband's funeral. Unlike at my mother's funeral, tears refused to come, overwhelmed by a different kind of grief. I desperately needed answers to why this had happened. After the funeral, in a moment of exhaustion, I found myself in the break room. It's finally over. Who knew funerals could be so draining? I muttered. This is your son's funeral. How can you say that? Someone retorted, incredulous. I'm just stating how exhausting it all is. We're not alone in this, you know. I suppose that includes me too, but she bears some responsibility for his death. Why am I being blamed? Despite seeming calmer lately, fundamentally, nothing has changed. Shouldn't we be mourning John's death and celebrating his life? Yet the blame directed at me never stops. My father-in-law attempted to diffuse the tension, but his efforts fell on deaf ears. If you hadn't married him, he wouldn't have taken his own life. He would have been holding his grandchild by now, my mother-in-law accused, her voice cutting through the solemn air of the funeral. Jolie, just returning from the restroom, intervened sharply. That's absurd. Do you have complaints against me too? Complaints? Yes, I do. Do you even understand how much you both neglected my brother? Her voice cracked with emotion. How can you blame Tala for this? It's not her fault, Jolie countered, her eyes filled with frustration and grief. It's because of you that my brother is gone, Jolie lashed out before storming out of the funeral hall. What are you waiting for? Go after her, my mother-in-law commanded sharply. Utterly useless even in such a moment, I clenched my fists tightly, feeling a surge of frustration and anger during the funeral. My mother-in-law continued to cast her disdainful glances at me. Ignoring her, I followed Jolie and found her sitting on a bench in a nearby park. I found you, Jolie. Let's go home and can try to make sense of what happened to John, I said softly. Yes, Jolie replied quietly. Back home, exhaustion washed over me, and I fell into a deep sleep almost immediately, as if to escape from everything. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my mother-in-law's voice. "Could you fetch the newspaper quickly?" Despite the funeral having just ended, there was no sense of mourning in her tone. It felt eerily like any other morning. "Yes, I'll get it," I replied mechanically. "Hurry up, please," she urged impatiently. I could have refused, but my body moved out of habit. As I reached the mailbox, I noticed a brown envelope nestled among the letters and the newspaper. An envelope? Who could it be from? I wondered aloud. Pulling it out, I searched for a sender's name, but there was none. Inside, a single sentence caught my eye. "To ensure Mom doesn't find out." The words hit me with realization about the sender and the recipient. I quickly pocketed the envelope and headed back inside, my mind racing with questions. "What took you so long?" "You're no help," my mother-in-law complained sharply as I handed her the newspaper. Ignoring her, I hurried back to the bedroom and tore open the envelope. Inside, written in John's unmistakable handwriting, was something that sent shockwaves through me. As I read the contents, a mixture of anger and fear threatened to overwhelm me. I struggled to steady my trembling hands and took a deep breath to compose myself. Without hesitation, I rushed to Jolie's room, finding her with dark circles under her eyes, evidence of a sleepless night filled with tears. "Come in, Tala," she said softly, her voice hoarse. "Sorry for barging in like this, but you need to see this immediately," I said, showing her the letter from John. Jolie's eyes widened as she read. "Is this?" Maybe he saw this coming and planned to end it this way. The letter began with heartbreaking words. "By the time Tala reads this, I may no longer be here. I wanted to be with you forever, but I couldn't bear it anymore." As I continued to read, the letter revealed even more shocking revelations. It detailed serious financial troubles plaguing the company owned by my father-in-law, on the brink of collapse. Worse still, it outlined his plan to transfer ownership of the company to Jolie, exploiting her position for financial gain. "He was using you, Jolie," I said quietly, stunned by the betrayal outlined in the letter. Here's a rewritten version of the segment. "If this is true, did I unknowingly interfere?" I asked, my mind racing with the implications. "Not at all. Remember, both of you were initially hesitant," Jolie reassured me. "That's probably why he suddenly changed his stance." "What do you mean?" "Maybe he thought if I joined John's company, transferring it to me would be easier since I'm his sister. It might have been what Dad was hinting at to Mom, suggesting such a plan." I spoke those words out of concern. I had a feeling Dad's company was struggling, Jolie confessed. "But this wasn't your fault. In the end, it was all for me." "Yeah, but..." I trailed off, my thoughts returning to John's letter. It ends with this. "I've never said this, but I'm adopted. Since Jolie was born, my status has deteriorated. I'm sorry for keeping quiet. Also, please tell Jolie, you're the sister I'm proud of. Although I resented your birth as a child, you've always been an irreplaceable, beloved sister to me." "How much did you know about the adoption?" I asked. "I knew nothing. My parents never told me," Julie replied, her voice filled with sadness. Memories from our college days flooded back. John had been the adopted friend who knew so much about the subject. Perhaps he wanted to spare others the pain he endured. But now, the real challenge lay ahead. Finding justice for John was paramount. That's why I felt a burning desire to confront my in-laws. Suddenly, Jolie remembered something. "Why did I forget this until now? I'm such an idiot." "What did you remember?" "When I offered to help you before, I installed a hidden camera in the house." "A surveillance camera?" "Yes, it's very discreet. I'd have anyone noticed it." "Can we see the footage now?" "Yes, let's." As we reviewed the footage, we uncovered damning evidence. Anger and disbelief surged through me as we watched John's parents verbally abusing him in the living room, berating him as useless and regretting adopting him. "Why didn't I see this sooner?" Jolie lamented, her eyes filled with rage mirroring my own. We prepared ourselves and marched over to confront John's parents. "Can we speak with you?" "What now?" "We're busy," my mother-in-law snapped. "This won't take long. You're responsible for John's death, aren't you?" Jolie accused, her voice trembling with fury. "What are you talking about?" my father-in-law retorted dismissively. "Enough with the act. You can't escape this," I added firmly. "But there's no proof. Even the police ruled it a suicide," my mother-in-law countered defiantly. "Exactly. Even though Jolie is my daughter, this is unforgivable, I declared. Who do you think you are? Look at this, Jolie said, producing a laptop. The screen displayed footage from the day John died. You didn't notice, did you? John and I installed cameras all over the house, Jolie explained. What? My father-in-law gasped. I swiftly played the footage. As described in John's letter, it clearly showed them pressuring John to take pills. Other clips revealed them covertly adding what seemed to be sleeping pills to his drink, causing him to become disoriented before their actions. The room fell silent as the damning evidence played out before them. How did you? We had cameras installed, I calmly replied. Wait a minute, darling. My father-in-law attempted to rise, but I held him back. I'm sorry, but trying to escape won't work anymore. What? The distant sirens of approaching police cars echoed outside. Please surrender peacefully, one of the officers called out. With that, my in-laws were escorted away by the police. It wasn't the end of everything, but a small sense of relief washed over me. Subsequently, my in-laws faced murder charges supported by the damning camera footage. The thought of what might have transpired without Jolie's foresight was chilling. Are you alright, Jolie? I'm fine, but your biological parents? They're not my parents. They're criminals, Jolie affirmed firmly. As a consequence, my father-in-law's company collapsed under the weight of its financial troubles, exacerbated by his criminal actions. Both he and my mother-in-law received guilty verdicts and were incarcerated. Curious about their condition, I visited them in prison. It turned out my father-in-law's cancer was a fabrication, merely an excuse to manipulate us. He was too unwell to meet me, but I confronted my mother-in-law. You seem surprisingly well. How are things in here? Just checking up on you. How's prison treating you? Humph, you're despicable. I'll take that as a compliment. Keep going. Goodbye. Returning to the now empty house of my in-laws, Jolie and I began packing to move out. Learning about John's adoption added another layer to our grief. Regardless, he was my beloved brother, Jolie reflected. Absolutely, that won't change, I agreed solemnly. We relocated to a new home and started afresh together. I assumed leadership of the company John left behind, determined to honor his legacy. Jolie and I vowed to fulfill his unrealized dreams, keeping his memory alive in our hearts. I believe we'll meet again someday, with gratitude and a smile. I currently live with my parents, so why don't you, a stranger, find accommodation in a more affordable place? What's the big deal, right? My husband, who I thought would bring me happiness, turned out to be using me. I felt betrayed by him and his family's actions shocked me. It dawned on me that this mother-son duo was oblivious to their own naivety. If they kick me out, who will pay the bills? I realized there was no point in trying to maintain a family with these people. I knew what I had to do next and immediately started making arrangements. As for the appliances, I arranged for a service to pick them up. The following day, I called another service to collect all the furniture and appliances. My husband panicked and began shouting. My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm 35 years old. I've been working from home since finishing college. Though I only commute once a month, I work full-time, and my company has been very accommodating. This is because I have a disability in both legs and use a wheelchair to move around my home. This happened due to a motorcycle accident during college when a car rear-ended me on the highway, launching me into the air. Everything seemed to slow down. This is it, I thought as I flew through the air. Fortunately, my life was not at risk, but my legs became paralyzed. Despite ongoing rehabilitation efforts, they likely won't recover. I've been in a wheelchair for years now, and I've resigned myself to the likelihood of remaining single for the rest of my life. After coming to terms with my condition, my desire to marry resurfaced. One day, friends arranged a blind date where I met Ken, who is 5 years older than me but looks younger. What surprised me was his behavior, which seemed immature for his age. To put it nicely, he's very straightforward. Upon seeing me in a wheelchair, he asked a barrage of questions without hesitation. How do you manage daily tasks? Can you do household chores? What about work and personal care? While others tiptoed around my disability, Ken's directness was refreshing. His curiosity and genuine interest made me feel valued. We continued dating and soon became a couple. I believed I could find happiness with him. At that time, Ken seemed like the only person willing to commit to me long-term. So when he proposed after just 6 months of dating, I was thrilled. But things changed right after we married. When Ken and I moved into my rented standalone house, albeit pricey, its wheelchair accessibility made it perfect for me. The previous tenant had made thoughtful adjustments. Ken loved the spaciousness. Since I spent most of my time at home, I handled most chores. Occasionally, when I asked for help, Ken often brushed it off, claiming he was too tired. He refused even to assist with simple tasks like helping me in the bath. "I'm not doing that," he'd say, leaving me to manage on my own, which was slower and more tiring. When I lived alone, a caregiver came twice a week to assist with bathing. I managed the rest of the time by myself, though I always hoped Ken would lend a hand. I often found myself exhausted from the effort. Despite the bathroom's accessibility features, Ken's habits added extra challenges like leaving items scattered around after his baths, which I had to clean up, further prolonging my routine. No matter how many times I asked, Ken wouldn't listen. "This house is designed for you to live comfortably. I moved in for you, and you still complain." You wanted to move to Ken. When did I ever say that? This house was originally my place. That's why it's set up for someone in a wheelchair. The first time I invited Ken over, he looked at the spaciousness and the appliances with stars in his eyes. I had invested a bit in electronics and furniture. "I'd love to live here after we're married, but now," he says, "this handrail is such a nuisance. It's like living in an old person's home." Why would you say that? Yeah, I should have looked more closely before. After we started living together, it finally dawned on me. The reason Ken married me was because of the house, the appliances, and the fact that I could handle household chores. Indeed, when we met at a social gathering, he kept asking if I could handle household tasks despite my disability. Ken received praises from his colleagues and friends for being such a wonderful husband. That's so far from the truth. He's just taking advantage of the fact that I can do everything by myself despite my disability. And to top it off, he's been jobless and partying every night since we started dating. Realizing all this after getting married was heartbreaking and brought me to tears. Yet I couldn't bring myself to end it. I kept telling myself there must be love there since we chose to marry. "Hey, can I have some allowance? You just got some the other day, didn't you?" "Yeah, but I've already spent it." Slowly, Ken started relying on me for money without working. I reached out to Ken's mother for advice. "Ken doesn't seem interested in working. What should I do? He's always been hardworking. Maybe he just needs a break." Despite her invitation to discuss anything, she always sided with her son. "It's natural since he's an only child," she'd say, but I wasn't convinced. With both my parents gone, I had no one else to turn to. I felt utterly lost. I considered confiding in a friend, but the last time I tried, they said, "I wish those were my problems." Ken always puts on a good front. That evening, Ken scolded me. "Hey, did you go complaining to Mom about work?" "Yeah, so what? Why would it bother an older person like her?" "I can't believe you." "Seriously?" "Well, maybe you should work so I don't have to worry." After I said that, Ken stormed out. Typical. He always walks out when things don't go his way, only to come back drunk early in the morning. "I'm back, babe." "It's early. Keep it down so you don't disturb the neighbors." "Shut up. Don't boss me around." When he's drunk, he's uncontrollable. All I can do in situations like these is to keep quiet and endure it. I felt like I was reaching my limit. The thought of being alone again was heartbreaking. I struggled between enduring the situation or facing life as a single person. The idea of divorce loomed larger. Then, out of nowhere, Ken suggested, "I'm thinking of having my parents move in." "What? You mean they'll move here?" "No, they'll move in with us." He acted as though it was decided that they would move in and had already planned on them staying in our home. I understand the desire to be close to aging parents, but both are still healthy. I don't understand why they would leave their own home to live with us. Do they really need to stay here? It will be crowded with 4 people, and since I work from home, it will be inconvenient. You're always so focused on yourself, huh? I never thought you could be this selfish. I'm just saying, why do they need to move here when they have their own place? Our place is bigger, more modern, and has all the conveniences. It's also accessible for elders. If Ken's parents moved in, I'd have to be on my toes during work hours. Ken's rarely home, but his parents would likely be around a lot since they're retired. Sharing the bathroom, kitchen, I'm slower than most people. I could easily imagine the strain of such a living situation. Can I have some time to think? You better hurry up. We don't have much time, even though he said there wasn't much time. Ken sure did wait. By the weekend, he brought his parents over. I suspect they've been discussing this move for a while now. You know, I've been thinking, maybe you should consider moving to a facility. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A facility for me? Yeah, it's a good idea, right? You have your own limits, right? In a facility, they take care of everything. It seemed he wasn't just thinking about his parents moving in, he was also considering sending me away. I'd visit you from time to time. That woke me up. If not now, then when, Ken? What do you think I am to you, huh? You're my husband, aren't you? Would you really tell your wife to go live in some facility? Hold on. When did I say I love you, Michelle? His words flushed my face with anger. Ken was using me. Hadn't I known all along? Wasn't it my fault for letting it come to this? I knew I had to draw a line. Then, even more unbelievable words came from Ken. In this house, I'll live with my parents. You, an outsider, can go live in some cheap facility. What did you just say? I looked to his parents for support, but they wore eerie grins. Why are you laughing? What's the big deal? Were you eyeing my home even before we got married? Things escalated too quickly. Please leave. What? Leave now. How can you talk to my parents like that? Ken's anger flared. If he cared so much for his parents, why didn't he earn his own money and build them a house? Why take mine? My head felt like it was on fire. It's okay, Ken. Michelle must have been shocked by our sudden visit. His mother interjected. We just came to check out the place today. Yeah, we need to see what we're dealing with before moving in. Looks like there are more appliances than last time. They seem quite comfortable here. They were seriously planning to take over my home. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself as I filled my lungs with air. A sudden question struck me. If I leave, how will they manage? His parents are on a pension, and Ken is just a part-timer. I'm covering all the rent and living expenses. Who will pay the $2,800 a month? Do his parents think Ken earns enough? Ignoring my concerns, his parents cheerfully departed. Ken left with them. I'm staying at my parents' tonight. Wait, we need to talk. There's nothing to discuss. I've made my decision as the head of the household. I won't change my mind. Left in shock, I couldn't stay idle. I promptly called a real estate agent I knew. Ken didn't return that night, likely celebrating with his parents. I quickly sorted my belongings into essentials and non-essentials. When Ken returned the next day and saw my organized things, he laughed. Oh, packing already? Found a new place? Yes, I have. Ken looked genuinely surprised by my swift response. And here's the card of a divorce lawyer. From now on, let's communicate through the lawyer. Divorce? Why? If you're kicking me out, there's no point in staying married, right? Ken seemed stunned, clearly not expecting me to bring up divorce. You can't live without me, can you? I don't understand. Who else would marry you? I can live on my own, but you were the one who wanted to get married. It was then that I realized how arrogant and overconfident Ken had been. He approached me assuming I was a lonely, disabled woman desperate for companionship. I'm independent, financially stable, and manage all the household chores since I stay home all the time. I'm the ideal woman. He thought money would keep coming in even if he didn't work. He never considered leaving because he couldn't find anyone else. That's why he was so shocked when I casually brought up divorce. Why? Afraid you'll be single for the rest of your life if you divorce me? Well, if staying married means living with you, I'd rather be single forever. Whether I spend the rest of my life alone isn't up to you. The usually submissive me was now standing up for myself, and Ken seemed flustered. I could sense his panic. I never realized he was so weak. I don't know why I put up with him for so long. Once I decided on divorce, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Maybe I had been too focused on getting married. Anyway, you don't have to move out right away. I'm not rushing you into a facility so soon. Oh, it's fine. I'll do as you wish. Don't worry, finding a place won't happen overnight. Take your time to think it over, okay? I've already secured a new place, so it's settled. What? Wait a minute, isn't this too soon? I watched Ken's emotions shift from smugness to panic. Dealing with him was becoming increasingly irritating as I calmed down. I'm independent, financially stable, and manage all the household chores since I stay home all the time. I'm the ideal woman. He thought money would keep coming in even if he didn't work. He never considered leaving because he couldn't find anyone else. That's why he was so shocked when I casually brought up divorce. Why? Afraid you'll be single for the rest of your life if you divorce me. Well, if staying married means living with you, I'd rather be single forever. Whether I spend the rest of my life alone isn't up to you. The usually submissive me was now standing up for myself, and Ken seemed flustered. I could sense his panic. I never realized he was so weak. I don't know why I put up with him for so long. Once I decided on divorce, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Maybe I had been too focused on getting married. Anyway, you don't have to move out right away. I'm not rushing you into a facility so soon. Oh, it's fine. I'll do as you wish. Don't worry, finding a place won't happen overnight. Take your time to think it over, okay? I've already secured a new place, so it's settled. What? Wait a minute, isn't this too soon? I watched Ken's emotions shift from smugness to panic. Dealing with him was becoming increasingly irritating as I calmed down. The staff at the facility are aware of my situation, so everything's in order. When did you arrange all this? Were you planning this all along? Yes, even before I met you. In fact, I had been planning for my retirement and had my eye on a particular facility. It's more like a condominium. After an injury during a hospital stay, I delved into investment books. I decided to invest in stocks and real estate, diversifying between my salary and my parents' inheritance. The facility I had in mind? I already purchased it and have been renting it out for income. I never mentioned this to Ken. It's my hidden asset. We don't need to get a divorce. I understand. You can stay here. Let's live with my parents. Do you not understand? Why would I agree to that? He seems pretty dense. Even after discussing divorce, he still believes he's irreplaceable to me. Sorry, but my decision is final. What's your problem? You're so selfish. If you regret this later, it's not my concern. Ken fell silent, lost in thought. It must have been hours. During that time, I packed my belongings. Then I overheard Ken making a phone call. It sounded like he was talking to his parents. Pathetic, needing his parents to make decisions for him, I thought. Then suddenly, Ken said, "Fine, let's get a divorce. Just leave quickly." Ken added begrudgingly, "Maybe he'll miss having me around like a housemaid." But perhaps he thought living with his parents would mean he wouldn't have to do any chores. He has a house, fully furnished. Daily life won't be a problem, at least for now. With that thought, he headed back to his parents' home. I'm going to talk to my folks about what's next. Get ready to move out soon. Yes, I will. I finished moving all my belongings within a week. During that time, Ken never showed up. We met again a day after the move was completed, as I was trying to settle into my new life in my new home. Ken called me outside and said, "Hey, what's going on? This place is almost empty. Where are the appliances?" I had a service pick up those items for me. What? I called the service the next day and had them collect all the furniture and appliances. My husband became agitated and started grumbling. Not only Ken, but also his parents were there. All the appliances here were purchased by me when I was single. The only things that belong to you are right there. I pointed to 3 cardboard boxes. I did leave the clear clothing container we bought after we got married. Michelle, we'll need to divide the property if we're getting divorced. That's right. We can't continue living here like this. What were you thinking? Nobody can live here. What do you mean? The rent is $2,000. Ken and his parents were shocked. I told Ken when we got married, this isn't your own house. No, it's not. I negotiated a lower rent with a real estate agent I know. If I move out, the rent will increase even more, especially since it's a property with disability access. I've already had inquiries from people with similar needs. I recommended they move out. Why didn't you tell us sooner? What are we going to do now? I don't know. I did tell Ken. I never heard about this. I'll sue you. I anticipated that. To be honest, from an outsider's perspective, it might seem like I selfishly initiated the divorce, broke the lease, and took all the furniture and appliances. But I'm certain you can't afford a lawyer, even if, by some miracle, you could. I have a trump card. I showed them some pictures. When were these taken? The photos showed Ken gambling and flirting with other women. I used my money for this. I'm prepared to use these in court, Ken. What the hell? I thought everything was going smoothly. It seems his parents were particularly upset. What's happening? Then suddenly, Ken began to apologize. I'm sorry. Please come back. I need you, Michelle. You're the one who kicked me out. We're already divorced, so what are you talking about? Besides, you don't love me, do you? If that's the case, I'll just leave. Even Ken's parents started apologizing beside him. We have nowhere to go now. That was a shock. What do you mean? Our house was foreclosed on. It turns out Ken's family home will be repossessed in a few weeks. They've gone bankrupt. His father's debt snowballed into an amount impossible for retirees to pay. Ken, who used to receive an allowance from his parents when he was single, probably thought he was in trouble and decided to get married, hoping for support. Now I understand why his mother was so kind before we got married. I can't help you now. We're strangers. Even if my folks and I end up homeless, are you okay with that? You brought this on yourself, didn't you? Can't you at least give me the electronics and furniture? You have money, don't you, Michelle? Are you planning to sell them? His ulterior motive was clear as day. I firmly told him I had no intention of giving him even one piece of furniture or electronics. Please don't say that. Have some mercy. It's too late for apologies now. Sort it out on your own. That's why I'm telling you, I can't sort it out. I told Ken and his father, who were persistent, that if they couldn't pay the rent, they should move out. The lease is in my name, so if I terminate it, that's the end. Evicting them was straightforward. Ultimately, even if the lease was transferred, Ken likely couldn't afford to stay here. I learned all of this from the real estate agent. I can't pay the rent. Ultimately, I decided to terminate the lease. Here, I no longer need this place, and since the divorce is final, everything is over. With that, I managed to evict the stunned family of 3 and lock the door behind them. What are we going to do now? I could move into a facility. Goodbye. I doubt facilities like that have much freedom and are probably not ideal, right? Good luck in that environment. Maybe Ken felt the need to have the last word because he spat out those bitter words. I ignored Ken and his parents and left the scene. But Ken wasn't done yet. A few days later, he showed up at the facility where I had moved. Hey, what's going on here? Ken looked like he was about to faint as he surveyed the facility. This isn't a bad place at all. It's a luxury facility worth $1 million. I had saved up money, and with the earnings from my investments, I bought this place. The previous occupant left at the right time, so I was able to move in immediately. With the proceeds from selling my house and additional income, I still had plenty left over. This facility is top-notch with doctors and caregivers on site. The floor plan is like an apartment, offering plenty of privacy. It's a 3-bedroom unit, so families can live together. There are even couples and families residing here. I can summon a caregiver with the push of a button, and there's daily assisted bathing. I originally planned this as my final residence, but I'm glad I made the move. You had this much money? Ken seemed incredulous. I really don't want you coming here. We're strangers now. Please leave. Then Ken abruptly shifted to a more pleading tone with me. Honestly, it was unsettling. Can't you let me stay here? What are you talking about? That's not possible. We're divorced. You need to face reality. That's exactly why. Let's get remarried. I'm stuck in a motel. Isn't that pathetic? I can't find work without a permanent address. At the motel, he was trying to charm me again. It seemed he had quickly distanced himself from his own parents. In the end, he only seemed concerned about himself. Why don't you take a good look in the mirror? Begging from your parents at your age, living off them after our marriage, and now trying to cling onto your ex-wife, I said firmly. Ken's face flushed bright red. Aren't you ashamed to be here, making a scene? Look around, everyone's watching. Residents peered from their balconies, having been informed to watch out for Ken if he showed up. I always expected Ken to come, whether to gloat over my situation or beg for help. The residents played along, casting sympathetic glances at Ken, turning it into a real-life drama. I won't ask again. Pale face, he muttered and disappeared. I doubt he'll return. Later, I encountered my mother-in-law working as a cashier at a supermarket. My father-in-law was a janitor. She turned away upon seeing me, being scolded by a young employee for her behavior. Ken had found a low-paying job through someone at the motel cafe. I now enjoy hosting home parties and have a fulfilling life with fellow residents. I've made good friends among other wheelchair users, and if I'd known such a community existed, I would have moved here sooner. I've also made time for physical therapy sessions, working toward my goal of regaining movement in my legs. Both at work and in my personal life, I'm content and fulfilled. You call this food for a family gathering? Thomas spat, his voice dripping with contempt. He took one bite of the dish, then violently flipped the plate over, sending food splattering across the table. The room fell silent as all the relatives stared at him in shock. I've never seen anyone throw food on the floor before, someone finally murmured. What's your problem? It's your fault for making such terrible food, Thomas sneered, pointing a finger. You're a stay-at-home wife, and this is what you serve on such an occasion. Who'd eat this crap? I met his gaze, unflinching. I didn't make it, you know. What? Thomas's voice was incredulous, his bravado faltering. This was my moment, my chance to finally stand up to him after all the times he had belittled me. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and prepared to speak. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 32 years old. Up until a year ago, I worked at a condominium management company, but I resigned after getting married to become a full-time housewife. If it weren't for the strong insistence of my husband, Thomas, I might have continued working. But Thomas was adamant about me being a stay-at-home wife, so I obliged and left my job. Honestly, I wanted to work a bit longer, but considering Thomas's earnings, I figured we could live comfortably without me working. Thomas works at a major consulting firm. We initially met through work, managing similar projects, and our frequent interactions led to our relationship blossoming from colleagues to a romantic one, ultimately resulting in marriage. Right after graduating from college, Thomas had been hopping through various consulting firms, showing himself to be both competent and articulate. While working with him, I was impressed by his work ethic and took the initiative to approach him romantically. I never thought someone like him would notice me, an ordinary person in terms of looks and abilities, but I was pleasantly surprised when he responded positively to my feelings. I was so happy that after we started dating, I couldn't stop gushing about him to my friends, even though they seemed a bit perplexed. From the bottom of my heart, I believed I had found the pinnacle of happiness. When we decided to get married just over a year into our relationship, I was walking on air, completely giddy and joyous. Little did I know what kind of misfortune awaited me. Listen, I'm busy with work on weekdays, so I'm going to come home only on weekends. Sorry, but please be okay with that. He dropped this bombshell right after we returned home from our wedding ceremony. I, who thought a happy married life was about to begin, was utterly shocked by this unignorable statement. Wait, what does that mean? It means I'll come home only on weekends. It helps to maintain the feelings we had when we were dating, right? But do you have a problem with it? No, I don't. I was, to be honest, dumbfounded by this sudden proposition. Coming home only on weekends, isn't that what's commonly referred to as a weekend marriage? It's strange to decide such an important thing all by oneself. If he really wanted a weekend marriage, he should have told me before we got married. Why did he suddenly proclaim this on the very day we registered our marriage? Sure, seeing each other less might help maintain some of the excitement, but isn't it natural to want to be with the person you love all the time? My initial enthusiasm for our new marriage was quite dampened, and I was more downhearted than I anticipated. Thomas, seeing me like that, treated me unusually kindly that day. Whether it was out of pity or to improve my mood, I'm not sure. That night, we spent our first night as a married couple, and I was able to momentarily push the thought of our weekend marriage out of my mind. Perhaps this was a strategic win for Thomas. In hindsight, Thomas's declaration at that time was just the beginning. Indeed, what lay ahead was much more harrowing than a mere weekend marriage, something I couldn't even begin to imagine at that time. 2 months into our marriage, Thomas stuck to his promise of only coming home on weekends. As a stay-at-home wife, I had envisioned preparing dinners for my tired husband every evening, but my enthusiasm quickly waned. There were weekends when he returned but opted to dine out, rarely tasting anything I prepared. Despite quietly urging us to reconsider our weekend-only arrangement, Thomas dismissed my input, belittling me with remarks like, "Even though you're just a housewife, you oppose me." It became clear that Thomas orchestrated my departure from work to gain control over our home life, ensuring I depended on him financially and couldn't challenge his decisions. That realization left me in tears of frustration at night, wondering how it all went wrong when all I wanted was a happy marriage. It felt like I was trapped in a tunnel with no way out, consumed by anxiety. By the 3rd month of our marriage, Thomas seldom came home, even on weekends, a stark departure from our agreement. What meaning did marriage hold when we barely saw each other? Can we discuss our life together as a couple, please? I gathered courage to ask one Friday night. Thomas, returning home possibly after drinking with colleagues, carried the scent of alcohol mingled with a sweet osmanthus fragrance that caught me off guard. It couldn't possibly be right. I've told you over and over, I ain't planning to change now, slurred Thomas, even in his drunken state, resolute in his stance. But this isn't what we promised. You said we would spend at least the weekends together, didn't you? What about now? You're not coming home on weekends either. I never agreed to this from the start. My words seemed to strike a nerve as Thomas's face flushed red with anger. I knew I had soured his mood instantly. How many times do I have to say it? I ain't budging an inch. Seriously, why do you complain so much? How about you finally get where you stand? Thomas's words cut deeper than his usual dismissiveness, pushing me past anger into a profound sadness. Why did Thomas marry me in the first place? Unable to bear it any longer, I retreated to my room. Later, when I heard Thomas in the shower, I crept out and ventured into his room driven by desperation. I hated stooping to this, but I couldn't continue feeling so powerless to Thomas. Months passed in the same manner, with Thomas and I living mostly separate lives. I stopped confronting Thomas about his absence, resigning myself to quiet endurance. Then, one day, my cell phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, whom I hadn't seen since our wedding ceremony. Curious and unsure of what she could want, I answered the call. Hello. Oh, Sarah, it's me. Hi, is something the matter? I could hear bustling noises in the background, likely from a supermarket or someplace crowded. Christmas is coming up. You're going to come to our place for it, right? All the relatives are gathering, and we want you to come too, Sarah. Oh, for Christmas? Yes, I'll definitely come. Despite agreeing, I couldn't shake the urge to ask about Thomas. Have you talked to Thomas recently? Thomas? Oh yes, I've talked to him several times. I've been reaching out a lot since he finally got married, but he said that his married life is going well, isn't it? Oh, really? I was baffled by my mother-in-law's statement. Did Thomas really tell her our married life was going well? How could he paint such a rosy picture when we barely spent time together in our weekend marriage? Then it dawned on me. Thomas had been feeding his mother deliberate lies about our relationship. My mother-in-law tended to worry about her son and was both kind-hearted and overprotective, as I had observed during our brief meeting. Her fondness for Thomas was evident. I think everything Thomas told you is probably a lie. The truth is, I confided in my mother-in-law, explaining how Thomas had insisted from the beginning of our marriage that he would only come home on weekends. Lately, he hadn't even been sticking to that arrangement. What are you talking about, Sarah? There's no way Thomas would do that. You, on the other hand, are trying to deceive me with lies. Who do you think you are? Her response was sharp and filled with disbelief, her voice rising in anger from the other end of the phone. I sighed heavily, feeling frustrated. This woman believed Thomas's every word without question. She never doubted his fabrications. Even when his own wife spoke up against him, my mother-in-law would fiercely defend him. That was just how she operated. I'm not lying. If it matters to you, I can show you video recordings of what's been happening inside the house for the past month. Fueled by frustration at being painted as the villain despite suffering because of Thomas, I declared this to my mother-in-law. But she cut me off, saying, I don't need you to stoop so low. You're the worst daughter-in-law, and abruptly ended the call, refusing to consider my side. I had anticipated this outcome to some extent. I didn't know what my father-in-law, a man of few words, thought of me, but my mother-in-law likely viewed me solely as a convenient partner for Thomas. Realizing this, I grew weary of continuing my married life as it was, and so I began to put into action a plan I had been contemplating for a while. The execution day arrived, coinciding with the gathering of relatives at my in-laws' home. Uncertain of how things would unfold, I steeled myself for whatever lay ahead. Quietly, a flicker of determination burned in my heart. As promised, on Christmas Day, I accompanied Thomas to his parents' house. Before leaving, I discreetly contacted someone. Unaware of my preparations, Thomas grumbled, going to my parents' place is such a drag, as he sluggishly got ready to depart. Upon arriving at my in-laws' house, I found Thomas's parents, his uncle and aunt, along with their children already gathered. A woman, presumably the housemaid, was busy in the kitchen, wearing glasses and a mask, focused on her tasks without engaging in our conversation. The crowded room made it hard for me to keep track of everyone. Oh, Sarah, welcome, my mother-in-law greeted me, though her words lacked warmth, her eyes devoid of any hint of a smile. I forced a polite smile, my cheeks feeling stiff. Merry Christmas. From then on, there were no direct exchanges between my mother-in-law and me as we all continued with the meal preparations. I joined in the kitchen, assisting with various tasks. My father-in-law, as usual, remained quiet, engrossed in his newspaper on the sofa. Once the food was ready and the table set, everyone began to help themselves to the meal. Thomas stood next to me, serving himself stew as I reached for a dish myself. You call this food for a family gathering? With a crash, the ceramic hit the floor, the sound echoing through the room as everyone's shoulders tensed in surprise. Thomas, with just one bite of the dish, flipped the plate over on the table, his voice seething with anger. Shocked gazes from all the gathered relatives fixed on him. I've never seen anyone toss food on the floor before. I'm sure they all felt the same way. Hey, what's your problem? It's your fault for making such terrible food. You're a stay-at-home wife, and you serve this on such an occasion. Who'd eat this crap? Thomas sneered. I looked at him with pity and retorted, I did make it, you know. What? Thomas's dumbfounded voice filled the room. This was my chance, the perfect opportunity to confront him after enduring so much. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. What are you talking about? You were in the kitchen preparing the meal just now, weren't you? Thomas scoffed, a look of confusion on his face. Sure, I was, but the housekeeper was there too, right? I was just setting the table. The housekeeper made the meal, right? I turned towards the housekeeper, who had quietly emerged from the back room, causing the relatives to gasp in surprise. Yes, that's correct. Actually, this housekeeper is someone I hired. Let me introduce her. It's my mother. The housekeeper, now revealed as my mother, removed her glasses and mask. Thomas and my parents-in-law reacted with astonishment, recognizing her immediately. Ah, weren't you the housekeeper Thomas hired? I didn't know. There's no way I'd arrange that. It seems that my mother-in-law thought Thomas had called the housekeeper, and she's shivering. Thomas, you know about my mother's work, right? She works at a restaurant, making delicious meals every day. But today she made it lightly flavored for us. I wonder why you thought I made the meal. That's because you were in the kitchen until just now, weren't you? Thomas, perhaps irritated by my question, raised his voice in anger. Objectively, it might seem natural to assume I made the meal alongside my mother since I had been in the kitchen. However, Thomas rarely eats my cooking and doesn't realize my dishes usually have a stronger flavor profile. I prefer richer tastes, using plenty of salt and spices. That's true too. However, the main reason is that you've hardly ever eaten my cooking. What do you mean? Everyone present, except for Thomas, widened their eyes in confusion. Thomas's face paled, freezing on the spot. Deciding to expose his insincerity, I continued. Thomas declared on the day we registered our marriage that he wouldn't come home on weekdays, that we would only spend weekends together. It's what's known as a weekend marriage. He never mentioned such a thing before we got married. I was shocked. I couldn't agree to it, but even if I opposed or tried to discuss it, he was adamant, saying, You, a full-time housewife, don't defy me, and he wouldn't listen to my opinions at all. As the truth about our marital life unfolded, shock rippled through Thomas's relatives. Among them, my mother-in-law reacted particularly strongly, her expression almost demon-like as she defended her son vehemently. I sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the moment settling in. It was time. With determination, I clenched my fists tightly. Thomas, are you there? An unfamiliar female voice echoed from the entrance, causing a ripple of unease among Thomas's relatives. One of them asked, What's going on? Just then, the living room door swung open, revealing a young woman in a short skirt with bright red nails and shiny hair, looking to be in her early 20s. Her wide-eyed gaze swept across the room, and she exclaimed in disbelief, Huh? Thomas, what's going on here? The woman, with a hint of sultriness in her voice, seemed utterly bewildered. Everyone except me struggled to grasp the situation unfolding. Mary, why are you here? Thomas addressed her, his shock evident. Why didn't you invite me? You said you wanted to introduce me to your family, so you asked me to come. Ha! When did I ever say that? 2 weeks ago. Mary held up her phone, showing the screen of her message exchange with Thomas, who gasped in response. I never sent this. What? Then who did? With Thomas and Mary vehemently arguing before me, I stepped forward. Nice to meet you. I'm Thomas's wife. I'm the one who invited you here today. I apologized to Thomas, but I sent the message. Ha! Both of them simultaneously dropped their jaws in surprise. Yes, actually, ever since I received the Christmas invitation call from my mother-in-law, I've been planning to confront Thomas. 2 weeks ago, while Thomas was taking a late-night bath after returning home, I quietly slipped out of the bedroom and took his smartphone. I noticed he was frequently communicating with Mary, so I quickly realized she was his mistress. I deceived her into coming here today to expose Thomas and Mary. As Thomas's relatives listened in, murmurs began to ripple through the room. My parents-in-law's faces grew visibly pale. I had my suspicions for a while. Why did Thomas start a lifestyle where he only came home on weekends immediately after we got married? A weekend marriage. Even though we're married, we barely see each other. If he truly loved me, why would he choose this? Because I'm busy with work. I've told you that many times, Thomas interjected, still trying to defend himself, but I let out a long sigh. Work, yes. I believed that excuse at first, but the lingering scent of perfume on you when you returned late at night. I had my doubts and eventually hired a detective. Huh? Wait, a detective? What the hell? Thomas stammered, visibly shaken. I took out the infidelity investigation report from the detective agency that I had in my bag and shoved it in front of Thomas and Mary. Suspecting Thomas's infidelity, I had requested the investigation a while ago, and the evidence of his affair was clear and damning. Your relationship began 5 years ago. At that time, Mary was only 15. You picked her up downtown and started dating, but of course, you couldn't marry a child like Mary. Also, Mary is currently working as a bottle girl, so you doubted your parents would approve. Feeling pressured by your parents to marry soon, you settled for a safe choice like me. Once the marriage quieted their nagging, you continued to see Mary quietly, planning to divorce me under the excuse of busy work and then marry her. That's the gist of it, isn't it? I laid out the information from the detective agency report and the messages between Thomas and Mary, exposing their secret relationship. What? What are you saying? Thomas would never. My mother-in-law, attempting to defend Thomas, faltered in the face of the evidence, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Thomas and Mary exchanged fearful glances, and finally Thomas spoke up. Hey, you, that's low. Using these tactics to degrade us. What you're doing is filthy. Those words sparked such intense anger in me that I felt my veins might burst. I screamed, Lo, what are you talking about? The one who stooped low here is you, who didn't come home right after we got married, isn't it? You pretended to be close to me while having someone else use me and put yourself on a pedestal, blaming me. You were waiting for me to get fed up and conveniently ask for a divorce myself, weren't you? Well, too bad for you. We're getting a divorce and you'll repay half of the marriage expenses. That's only fair. I fixed a piercing stare on Thomas and Mary, the most intimidating expression I had ever worn. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Let's forget about the repayment. Thomas and the woman pleaded desperately as I glared at them with disdain. Just leave, both of you, I shouted, my voice echoing through the house. Finally, Thomas and his companion fled with shocked shrieks, unable to withstand my fury any longer. I apologized to everyone for causing a scene, I said, regaining my composure as I stepped back. Sighs of disbelief emanated from Thomas's relatives, who were undoubtedly stunned by his actions. Sarah, I don't know what to say, my mother-in-law stammered awkwardly, her head lowered in embarrassment. With my own mother beside me, who had played the role of a maid, I left my in-laws' house behind, knowing I would likely never return. And so, my tumultuous one-year marriage with Thomas came to an end. A few days later, I filed for divorce. Now, officially single again, not much changed despite gaining the label of divorcee. Our marriage had been short-lived, and our living situation hardly resembled married life. We had been renting an apartment, which made it easy for me to swiftly remove Thomas from my life. He did eventually pay the repayment I demanded, but he had to borrow money from relatives because he had squandered his earnings on lavish gifts for the woman, designer bags and clothes. Despite working for an elite company, Thomas was broke and reluctantly took a loan from a bank to settle his debts. Witnessing the Christmas debacle, his relatives were unwilling to lend him any more money. As a result, his plans for marriage with the woman were put on hold until he could clear his debts. Both sets of parents seemed to agree that they should not marry, likely tired of being embroiled in their children's troubles. Let him struggle with his debts, I thought, glad to have escaped from a year of suffering that now felt like someone else's problem. Meanwhile, I returned to my former job at the condominium management company and found solace in the routine and challenges of work. It was a stark contrast to the confinement and frustration of being the stay-at-home wife. Quietly, I made a vow to myself that if I ever married again, it would be with someone who valued both our careers equally.